A peace to the Quran, all the Quran alone people. I'm going to stick the StreamYard key out, and as I said, we're going to try and wrap this up in about an hour, something like that. Obviously, going to wait for the brother to jump on when he can, and yeah, as I said, I'm going to try and cover as much as we can. Obviously, we can't cover everything. Obviously, I'm not a scholar. This is just research that I've done. Obviously, the brother who's going to come on, I don't think he's a scholar either, but we're both researchers, truth seekers. And yeah, some stuff we might say might upset people, but that's life. You know, the truth hurts sometimes. If you feel like you want to blind follow, that's the only reason why it would hurt. If you're a true truth seeker, you will take every bit of information and you will verify it. If you don't verify it, unfortunately, I'm not a type of person to spoon feed you. So what do I have on the marriage, the age of Aisha? It might come to a shock to a lot of people. So what was the age of Aisha when last Prophet married her? Well, according to the Zoroastrian, Bukhari, right, the Sodomite, in volume 7, book 62, number 64, narrated that Aisha, that the Prophet married her when she was 6 and consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old. And then she remained with him for 9 years, i.e. till his death. But please note that all reports about 6 to 9 years marriage age was fabricated by Shia of Basra and Kufa, Iraq, and criminal Zoroastrian Persian imams. Authors of hadith books have added this slander in their evil books happily. Many Muslims are unaware that vast majority of teachers of Bukhari were from Kufa and Basra, Iraq. And among those, some his teachers were Shia. For example, a teacher of Bukhari, I don't know if I'm going to say this properly, Fad bin Dukain al-Kufi was a bitter Sabiite Shia. It is given in, so he was a Shia. So Bukhari's many narrators were Shia. First of all, that all reports of 6 to 9 years marriage age story are forged reports. Secondly, almost all narrators of that reports were Shia from Iraqi cities, Kufa and Basra. Let me just invite them. Salam, bro.
Wa alaikum salam.
How's things?
I can't complain. All is well.
Yeah, all is well. So I was just mentioning about sort of like the hadith that's been mentioned in regards to the 6 and 9 year old that Bukhari put out there, and just explaining to everyone that, you know, they were Shias, they were from Persia, they were Zoroastrians, and they had a big hate for Muslims. A lot of people have to do their history.
So you don't think any of the hadiths from Aisha came from Aisha?
No, none of them.
Interesting. Okay.
No, none of them. They all come from infiltrators. Yeah, Sodomites, infiltrators, whatever you want to call them, because there's a lot of history regarding the Zoroastrian Empire. And as I said, this is what I'm studying at the moment and trying to put everything together in timelines. And basically, the sort of paraphrasing, what happened was there was, I forget, I think it was Harun Rashid or something, was a leader at that time of the Zoroastrian Empire. But it wasn't him, it was his mother. Right? His mother, actually, when they came back after being persecuted by the Muslims, because the Muslims went in and they annihilated the Zoroastrian Empire, because they were barbaric or whatever their excuse was in order to do this. And obviously some fled to India, some stayed and got forced to be Muslims. And anyway, when it started rising back up, the woman that was actually the caliphate, it wasn't Harun Rashid at that time, even though he was classed as one. The mother pulled the strings, if you like. And basically she told Bukhari and all that they're going to lose their heads if they don't start messing with and adding and, you know, messing everything up, basically, because they knew of these people at that time that were sort of I don't know if you can call them scholars and that, because I don't even think there was such things as certificates and all that kind of stuff. But they were learned people that were either forced into the deen or they took it on. But obviously, as the Zoroastrian empire rose, again with Muslim, because they sort of like, how can I put it? They the Muslims and Zoroastrians sort of allianced, if you like, whether that was by breeding with each other or whatever. As I said, I'm in the process of writing something.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because you're talking about like the Abbasid takeover and stuff like
that. That's it. The Abbasid,
So during the like the Umayyads and whatnot, Umayyad dynasty and whatnot, like you had a lot of independence within like North and West Africa and whatnot in Al Andalus.
Exactly.
So like, yeah, I could see where they would have to link up with the Persians somehow just to be able to have the power to do what they were doing. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And you'll find that I'm reading something about the Jewish people at the moment. And apparently they interbred with the Persians as well.
Yeah, to me personally, I think I see a lot of the Jewish stuff in the Shia tradition. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like they ducked out and kicked it with them. You know what I'm saying? Or some of them, like a particular group, because for instance, like I descend from a group of Maghrebi Jews in North Africa and whatnot, right? So where it's a different tradition and whatnot. Like they didn't deal with the Talmud, other kind of things. You know what I'm saying? Like the ones that rock the Talmud, you can see it leaking over into Shia Islam a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. And that's like, well, with the Levites, it was the Levites, the priesthood, that were the infiltrators. They were the ones that got rid of the real children of Israel.
Right.
They got rid of them. They actually, I don't know whether it was killing or sort of like breeding them off to Europeans and places like that, and then keeping the scripture that they got to themselves, and obviously, infiltrating and corrupting societies. And that's why they brought in Christianity. Because in Christianity, it's like hand over your money, you'll get the rewards in hereafter, all goody good. The reason being is because they were getting all the bunts out of it.
Bro, there was literally a cathedral where they had it listed out, right? Like, you know, like every sin that was possible, and then like every price that you could pay for that sin to get into heaven.
Exactly.
Like, madness, bro. Straight madness.
Yeah, so that's basically sort of, so I don't take no. Even if it's history, I'll be very, very, I don't know. If I can get it, I would rather take it. I'm being honest. I'd rather take it from a historian or a Christian or something like that, and rather take it from these people. Now, it might be true. Some history might be true. But I'm sorry, if there's lies and there's fabrications in a book, I will no longer entertain it.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, because you just don't know. You just don't know. I mean, you just don't know. No, because the Levites, apparently, when I was reading the Levites, they were very intelligent people. Very intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very intelligent. I think, as I said, I'm going through this book at the moment, and it goes even up to Zionism, and I mean, it's a proper mind-boggling experience. And then obviously at the moment, what I found out is that Hinduism is about 10,000 years old. What you'll find is that ancient Egyptian is only about 3,500 years old. And what you find is when you go into the Vedic scripture, everything that goes on in religions, where it leaks off into Egypt, leaks off to Judaism, leaks off to Islam and Christianity, all the pagan stuff has all come from Hindus, because the Hindus can bring up their own language, which is so similar to the other languages. And it means exactly the same thing as well.
Yeah, so you put everything on the Persian and the Hindus, and
yeah. I mean, not everything on the Hindus, but I'm going for the oldest religion. So, what is the oldest religion known to man? And it would go, and they're the oldest ones that still have scripture. That's the thing, because the children of Israel, the real children of Israel, when they were kicked out by the high priest to the Levites, the Levites kept the remaining scriptures from them. And it weren't many, because at that time it was all oral. It was all oral.
So, question. So, do you believe that? So, in the Quran it stipulates that every nation was sent a messenger, speaking their own language, and even that they have their own hadith and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So, do you believe that there's any true books or?
I would say there's truth in some of this stuff, of course. So I would say there's truth in some of it. You know, like the Hindus still believe they believe one God. You know, they believe certain, even though they believe, right, this is the thing, they believe one God, but they put an idol for it, or you know, they put other gods underneath. So they believe there's one main God, and then they'll put other gods for like the rain and the earth, and you know.
But you can actually find writings from there where they say you can't make a form of the actual God, or etc.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. As I said, that at the moment, I'm in this process of trying to dig so much stuff out. It's unbelievable, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much information, but it's exciting information because you have to think. To be honest with you, whether Muhammad existed or not, whether Jesus existed or not, whether Moses existed or not, we have to come to terms with what was the main point. What was the main point? The main point is Tawheed. Love what Allah loves and hate what Allah hates. And the idol worshipping, no partners with God. Now, when you go no partners, now you go on to the word of God. Can you have partners with the word of God? Can you have other like his creation words with as equal as his words? Of course you can't.
No, that's why the Quran makes that challenge a bunch of times. Like,
Exactly.
give me 10 surahs, give me one surah, give me whatever. You know what I mean? Like it says, even if the oceans were ink, you would exhaust them and still not be able to come up with something better.
Exactly, and that's the same when he says, "Why would you need all them hadiths? The Quran is enough. What I gave you is enough. Why are you making more fabricated hadiths? You know?"
Right. It cracks me up because you see all these scholars and whatnot. They make their videos, and behind them is this wall of books that with all these beautiful embroidered books, etc. Whatnot. You know what I'm saying? All kind of top tier hadiths. Like, yo, like you need all that to understand the Quran.
Exactly.
You need all that.
And sometimes the bookshelves are bending. But yeah, you know, it's like so I'm going through a whole array of things, even up to the Romans, the Greeks. I'm trying to smash it all together to get a fuller picture, and trying to make it so a layman can understand it. So I'm not going into too much detail. I'm going into a lot of detail when it comes to the Jewish people, a lot, because that's where it claims it all started.
The funny thing is, like the Jews got like their own pocket of hadith, which I find to be extremely interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's just strange how they've got their own hadith to explain the Torah. You've got the
that's the crazy part.
Yeah, the Christians have got just a hadith. They've got no scripture. It's just hadith. Because we have to think about it. The Christians were made up from Paul. And the Saul of Tarsus was a Jew. He was working for the Romans, Constantine. He was a bounty hunter. He was going and collecting the Gentiles to take back to him, obviously for money. And he was dealing with what he was dealing with. And then he had this fantastic fall of a horse. He was the only one that fell. You see all this stuff. But then when you go into the Zoroastrian, the Avesta book, and I'm talking about 10,000, I'm talking about 5,000 years ago, before all this come in, what did Zoroaster do? He had the same vision. He fell off a horse. And he had the same vision as what the Christians are saying. So he had exactly the same incident as what Paul did.
So you think that it's a lifted story?
Of course it is. 100%. 100%.
Interesting.
It has to be. I mean, look, you know, at the end of the day, when we think to ourselves, why would God keep pushing information down and saying, right, now this one, I'm not giving you no more, but I'm going to protect this one. For people that want guidance, you have to seek it. You can't just be sitting there having someone wipe your ass. You've got to wipe it yourself. So you've got to seek that guidance for God to guide you. If you don't, you're not going to sit around and God's just going to guide you. He might guide you like a little bit of the way, but he leaves you to do the rest. Like what is, I suppose if you go running towards him, he comes running to you further, or you have to want it. You can't just sit there and go, lip service. Yeah, I'm this, I'm that, when you're doing nothing about it. You have to use, and that's why God always uses the reasoning and the thought, like what you said in yesterday's stream. You have to think. If you're not thinking, you're blind following, because you're allowing others that have done the work to think for you. And God's not speaking to them to do it for you. He's speaking to you individually to do it. So yeah, as I say, it's just one of them things, and I'm going through the process of. It gets bad, and I've had a few messages from some people that state about fasting. I've tried to guide them, and you know what it is. People seem to think that, I'm the only one on the truth. No, what I say is I don't know. This is the trouble, because none of us can be so ignorant to say we have the truth. But we use our common sense and our reasoning that God tells us in the Quran to use, right? And God will teach us in our language, our mother tongue. You don't have to be Arabic. You don't have to be Arab to understand it. If we go by the verses in the Quran. So if God, and we can race each other to piety. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I find a lot of people that are Quran alone, that still fast and still pray, they have a really, they have a bad issue that someone who doesn't fast and pray, because they don't understand the word for word translation of the Quran, because it's been put into something different, a different dialect than what it was. Yeah. And another thing I'm getting to the point of as well, I don't even believe, this is my opinion now. I don't give opinions, but this is my opinion. I don't even believe that it should have been that much of a book. Now we got to think about it, right? There's certain commandments that God lays down, commitments, commandments, whatever. You'll find in the Quran there's quite a lot, not just 10. But there's some foundation, and I believe the foundation doesn't need all them pages. Doesn't need all them pages. I think that a lot of what's been wrote is they used to tell a lot of stories. They used to tell a lot of stories. Yeah, there's a lot of like in cave times, let's say Egyptian times. No, even before Egyptian times, if they didn't have nothing to write on, they would draw little things on the wall, and so they were into storytelling already. Mm-hmm. So you had your little Hollywood going on there, and they've just ramped it up. By now, they've got their own Hollywood stuff. Why do you think Hollywood comes up with all this stuff? Don't tell me they don't read these holy books and these, and everything else that's in history and that. It's all connected. And this is the deception of Satan. He wants you to believe these stories, But I think it was just basically, it was so straightforward, it was unbelievable. Like, think about this one then. What we have in our hands today, everything we have in our hands, the scholars, the hadiths, the Quran, the different translations, did it come at the time of the Prophet? Would have all that PhD stuff come at the time of the Prophet? Would it have been so hard to understand at the time of the Prophet? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. At the time of the Prophet, they were Gentiles. They had no scripture. They came down, the Prophet came with a message, and that message has to be recited clearly to the people so they get it and they understand it. The Prophet didn't have like 10 imams around him and different Qurans and hadith books, and it was pretty bang straightforward. Because it even states in the Quran, if it came into any other language, they would have said, what's this foreign stuff? So
yet they still accuse it of being foreign.
Of course, yeah.
There's some. So I try to tell people about that too. Like, so the prophet was the only person who was like the only prophet that I know in history who was actually given the instruction of, if you don't understand what's coming down to you, like this is for all of us too. Like if you don't understand what's coming down, you go to the people of the previous scripture. You know what I'm saying? And so what's interesting about that is like a level of humility. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I thought like that's some cool stuff. Like so there's stuff in the Arabic that it came down and that they didn't understand. So in order to be able to understand it, they would have to like go to the Jews and Christians and be like humbly like, hey, what does this mean? What does this mean? And a lot of them didn't want to do that. They wanted to reject that concept. Like to me, like one of the biggest aspects of the Quran is the concept of people of the book. You hear it all throughout the Quran and whatnot. You read it all throughout the Quran and whatnot. And the concept like the rope of Allah, etc. whatnot. And so like there was a lot about what the Prophet brought in and what's in the Quran that's very there's a humbling aspect to it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to bring you back to something, you know what I'm saying, versus keep you separate from something.
Exactly.
Right?
And the only way you can sift out any corruption, any alter translation in any of the books is by not mastering, but by God opening your eyes to the final revelation, because that's your foundation. Now, if you don't understand it, now you go back to the books. Fact. Because it'll make it quick. It'll make it sort of easier to understand than going to that shake and that, because they've all got different. Yeah, and
Allah says He makes the verses clear to you. He doesn't. Exactly. He doesn't say He needs anyone else to do it, and He says it's the clear reiteration of His verses. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, and that's the same with praying and fasting. It ain't mentioned in the other books. It's mentioned in the hadiths of them books or whatever.
Well, no, so it is like so. If you go to the conversation that me and Ahmed had on Ramadan, that 5-hour one, and whatnot, like so he was giving his understanding, like towards the end I give my understanding on it, and whatnot. So for me, I don't. So the conversation him and I have is that in the Torah it talks about like there's a concept that's in the Torah and the Quran where Moses is given 40 days and whatnot, right? So where he's receiving the Torah and whatnot, and so. In the Quran, it doesn't say that he fasted. In the Torah, it says that he fasted twice, right? And the second time, it literally says that he did not eat or drink when he did it. Right? So for me, I don't. However, it's never made mandatory for the nation to fast, right? In the Torah, right? That like Jews don't fast for the month of Isan when which is the same month as Ramadan, right? They don't fast for that month because the Torah came down, right? So they're never given the command to fast. Moses fasts because he's doing it. You know what I'm saying?
This is the same with Mary in the Quran. When she was fasting, she was.
Yeah, it was like a verbal fast. Like she was eating food. I was like, "Come on, fam."
Exactly.
We were like that. Had me dying when we came down. I was like, "Come on, stop."
Yeah, it's not for the nation. It's for them specific people at that time. There is a concept behind it in regards to getting close to God, you know, but we should be doing that 24/7.
For me, I actually enjoy fasting, right? Like, and for me, I notice the difference when I fast and when I study, whatnot, right? Like, I know the benefits, etc., whatnot. For me, I don't have an issue with the physical fast, right? For me, I have an issue when people do the physical fast and they negate the figurative aspect, right? They don't consume. You know what I'm saying?
The thing is like,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, I understand that, but you know, like they make it mandatory upon people when they don't make it clear that if you want to do it. It's that, you know,
right?
There is like, I mean, I intermittent fast, so I eat like I'd say twice a day. I do like a 16-hour, you know, a certain time to allow the cells to drop all the necessary toxins and things like that.
Yeah.
So it is beneficial because you just don't know when there's food and when there ain't going to be food. But at the same time, you can't force it on people and say, this is the month, no eating, and there's punishments and all that.
Right. Yeah, because it's not there. Like, so for instance, like you were talking about like the basic concepts, right? I go to Surah 2 ayat 177 just for a basic breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Because let me go to it right quick. Because it just gives a real simple, basic Akida. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, like it's all about just righteousness. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, like, so there's different body types, different all kinds of stuff. Like if you try to fast, it'd be bad for you. You know?
Exactly.
So it just is what it is. Like so if you can't physically fast, right? What's the like? So like I talk a lot about the fact that Arabic and Hebrew, the words are literal and figurative. So like you gotta understand it from both sides and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Surah 2 ayat 177. Righteousness is not that you turn your faces toward the east or the west, but true righteousness is in one who believes in the law, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and gives wealth in spite of love for it to relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveler, those who ask for help and for freeing slaves. And it doesn't say slaves, but we already know what that is. And who establishes prayer and gives zakah. It doesn't say prayer there, right? It just says it says salah, right? Like so there's that, right? And gives zakah. who fulfill their promise when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty and hardship and during battle, and those are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are the righteous. Nowhere is fasting mandatory in there. Nowhere to be righteous.
Exactly. That's what zakat means as well. Zakat actually means purity, purify. It doesn't mean to hand over your money. And zakat, because that's sadaqah. Now sadaqah is different because you give that as and when you've got it to whoever needs it at that time. There's no yearly 2.5% of your wealth being taken.
No, yeah, and so the funny thing about that is even in the Torah, like it can't ever be money. Like so, like there's a concept of like a tenth or whatnot. There's even a verse in the Quran that talks about like you already know what the percentage is, right? And the only percentage talked about in the Torah is a tenth and whatnot. But even then, it can't be money. It's food. You're giving food to the poor, and the only time it can be money is you convert it to silver and then you take it to the place where you're going to feed the poor. Then you go buy food for them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's never just money you just give up like that. It doesn't make sense. You know
it's true. All right. So what we do, I'll sort of just read a little bit of what information I've got on regards to. See, I haven't done much on Mary, obviously, because I just want to try and tackle.
I thought you put Mary in there. I was talking about the age of marriage. Not
oh
Mary.
yeah, oh oh that's my bad. I'm gonna have to cancel that bit then. Oh, I thought you meant Anne Mary.
No, you're fine. Like I don't know. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
I guess this kind of covers both because I guess a lot of Muslims try to be like, well, yeah, Mary is 12 years old based upon the Catholic sources.
Yeah. That's it. Now, as I said, we go back to just to give a little rough. See, Persian Bukhari, he was born about 100 years after Ibn Ishaq. Who was a mere, and basically Ibn Ishaq was another story collector, and truth is his book is full of lies. Now some teachers of Bukhari were also Shia who taught Bukhari. Report of Ibn Ishaq, not just this, but also hundreds of narrators of Bukhari were Shia. This has been accepted even by all top Sunni scholars. Professor Asami of Medina University in Saudi wrote, scholars has objection on over 80 narrators of Bukhari. Hassan Banna of Muslim Brotherhood Egypt wrote a book cleansing Bukhari and Muslim from useless hadiths. There's a few other references here, but obviously this is not the topic. But what you'll find is that Ibn Ishaq, he was the one that reported the Prophet's biography. He done exactly the same thing. He went and got hearsay. And what you'll find is that the Abbasid Caliphate at that time ordered them to do it quickly. It weren't like take your time. It meant like do it quickly, sweetly. So we have to understand that, if the Prophet really wanted to know and God wanted you to know, like God says in the Quran, I have, the oceans would run out with the words that I have to say, but this is obviously enough. The Quran is enough. So to add extra books to it, it just seems like, why do you need to go so much into his personal life when he is just a human? You can't make distinctions. The only reason why you'd go into his life is either to worship or to make distinctions to try and make him better than what Jesus was, or, the other ones that have got more miracles or whatever. That's, you put him up on a pedestal. And in the Quran, it states we shouldn't make no distinction between any of the messengers. So you already do this with the Shahada anyway. You add his name with the Shahada. There's no Shahada anyway, because as you all know, when we were souls, God did ask us, is he one God? And we all said yes when he brought us out the back of Adam. It's in the Quran. It states that we've already said our Shahada. So, we don't need a round of applause, a certificate, loads of people to see us, taking our Shahada and can go, congratulations and all that, that crap, if you like. But if you wanted to do it that way, the only Shahada would be there's no God but God. And that's mentioned over 37 times in the Quran itself. Nothing referring to Muhammad there. If Muhammad was there, then you'd have to add all the other messengers and prophets. And you'd be there probably for about an hour, just going through that. So it don't make sense. So all the reports about the marriage of Aisha around 6-9 years are attached to the name of Hisham bin Awa. And Hisham had 2 living periods, first in Medina and second in Iraq. When Hisham was living in Medina, he used to say following words. Persian proverb is known to all. That's a thing saved is useful in future. His saying will be very helpful in life. Obviously, Hisham said, when an Iraqi describes 1,000 hadith, you should throw 990 of them upon the ground and feel suspicious about the remaining 10. This comes from a guy that also lied. Anyway, so and this is and this is the fact that all narrators, liar, fabricators of all reports about marriage of Aisha belong to Iraq, mostly from 2 Iraqi cities, Kufa and Basra. Almost all narrators are Shia who hate Abu Bakr and Aisha. They forged this lie in order to ridicule Aisha and his dad Abu Bakr. Oh, maybe they've just messed up there. They might have messed up. So there's a list of 13 people here that shows you that they're Shia and they're from Iraq. I can't pronounce them, sorry, but that's just something you lot have to do your research on. As I said, I'm not here to feed you with any silver spoon, but there was also hundreds of other narrators of Zoroastrian Bukhari who were ardent Shia. And the reason why, when you go about Shia, they're Zoroastrians. They come from the Zoroastrians. So if you do your research, you'll find out a lot in regards to the breaking up and actually the the coming together as well, or mixing in with Muslims, and it'll all make sense to you. As I said, I have got some information, as I said, but I'm just putting it together. It's going to take a bit of time. So let me get to. I'm just scrolling through, and I want to get to the real point, because I want to let the brother speak and let him give his version of it as well. Who's this now on there? All right, we have to see who this person is now.
Hello,
yes.
Salam people.
Salam.
Matthew, I want to know, do you believe Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger, or do you agree with Orthodox more that there is another prophet?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you. Sorry, it just broke up.
Do you believe that there are more prophets to come?
More prophets to come? No. Why would there be more prophets to come if he's the final prophet?
Because Orthodox more is a Quranist and he believes in that. So I'm just trying to work out.
Who believes that, sorry?
Orthodox more.
Orthodox more?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, he believes there's more prophets to come?
Yeah.
No,
right.
I believe the Quran stipulates that the East will be the last one as a sign for their judgment. So the concept of when it says Wahatam and Nabiyin, it's a noun, not a verb. So the verb form would be the last and final concept. The noun form means a signature, or a signature, an authentication. So Prophet Muhammad authenticates all the previous prophs. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
that's how I see it. That's how I see it.
Yeah, but I've heard from other people that you believe Drew Ali to be a prophet too.
For me, yeah.
Okay. That's okay. I'll talk. I need to go for food, innit? I'm fasting. I'll come back down and I'll chat with you.
But that's a conversation for a whole other time. We're talking about the age of marriage with the Quran right now.
Mufti, I believe, got some good resources on the actual change. If you want to look at it from a hadith point of view, because there's issues with the actual change of transmission.
Okay, you got something on the age of marriage and maturity?
On Aisha's age, yeah. There's that Abu Layth one, isn't there?
What?
Abu Layth's done a video on it.
So what do you say about it?
He doesn't accept the hadith about Aisha's age. He views the hadith to be weak.
But what do you say about the age of marriage and maturity? What's your thoughts?
Are we talking about Aisha's age or the age of maturity?
Just the age of marriage and maturity, Age of Aisha, whatever you want to touch on.
Okay. I think he was 18, 19, possibly even 20 in it. But
so what do you think the age of maturity is?
You all have a different. You mature at different times, innit? Not one person's going to mature at that same time.
Don't disagree. Do you think there's at least a range?
Yeah, because 16 plus class one, she's like what everyone agrees up to now. Everyone said 16 plus.
In the
And the
school,
rest of them would say 18 plus.
in the school of thought that you come from, what is the age that the orphans receive their property?
I don't know.
Okay.
As soon as they're physically and mentally able to.
Right. So in the Quran stipulates that once they reach the age of marriage, then you start to test them for that.
Yeah. So I don't understand the age of marriage as physically and mentally stable.
Okay.
Okay.
So, brother, were you done going in about the whole Bukhari thing?
Yeah, I was. I've got totally thrown off for that one. Yeah, I got totally thrown off. All right. Well, I'm just going to get to the points. I'm just going through something just to find the. Anyway. Yeah. That just. I mean,
no worries.
you know, the profit thing. To be honest with you, the profit thing. There's only one prophet, and obviously, if now this is the thing, if it's true, and obviously I'm not going to speak about the issue yet in regards to Jesus coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've got my sort of opinion on that, but that's sort of like another sort of session.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Then he was a prophet, Jesus. So if he was to come back, then Muhammad isn't the last prophet.
That would be my contention. However, like again, that's another conversation. So
anyway, we go.
Yeah, but that's it. Also has to do with the linguistics of it. It also has to do with the concepts of like so. So there's a long reason as to why I say that, because it has to do with the fact that
now he doesn't mention no messengers will come in the Quran. There's nothing saying that there's a last messenger or anything. Even the Sunni Islam Q&A, they even state that yes, the final prophet, but it didn't say final messenger.
Facts. That's what I'm saying. Like so, right? Exactly. So it stipulates that Isa's a sign for the day of judgment, but he comes back saying some stuff, right? And what he says, and this is what we were talking about the other day about the Quran correcting Catholicism and Christianity and whatnot all day, right? Like so they're like, so you got Muhammad correcting Christianity and whatnot, but a Christian's really not like so. We understand that the Injil, right, is not whatever they follow is not the Injil. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not. No.
So the only person that could give them the Injil that they would believe would be Isa, as far as I'm concerned, right? And so who when he comes back, he has the ability to recite all that stuff to him. Like to me, I see him coming back. Whatever, when Allah has that conversation to him, he's having that conversation for the Christians and whatnot, because the Christians.
The thing is, I mean, the thing is with this, when it comes to messengers, see, now I have an issue with that, because hypothetically, us giving what we're doing, we're giving the message. So we're hypothetically messengers. All of us who give dawah, we're giving a message, aren't we?
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah, so we're giving a message like the Prophet was given the message, Jesus, and all the 125,000 or 126,000 people that come, they were all given the same message, and they were either related as messengers or prophets. Yeah. So
I'm not putting myself in that group, because I can't confirm that I'm saying the same thing that they were saying. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, right. Okay.
I can confirm that whatever they were saying was unchanging and unaltered. And so I'm striving to understand what was unchanging.
So you're
unaltered.
So you're saying that the message you might be giving might be altered or changed.
Yeah. So I'm trying to understand what has been unaltered and what has been unchanged, and stick with that. You feel me?
Yeah, that's a good thought as well. So yeah, all right. So the truth. Here we go. The oldest and earliest historical sources of Islam show that Aisha was in fact, wait for it, the sister of Abu Bakr and was wife of martyr Salih bin Salih Atib. Anyway, Salah was martyred in a battle, and the companions requested the Prophet to marry her. So he married her when she was 48 years old. And age of prophet was 52. And he was without any wife from 3 years since the death of Khadijah. This is truth, and all other stories we find in fabricated hadith books of Persians are forged by criminals, Sabaite, Shia, and Zoroastrians. But majority of our brainless clerics believe in the forged stories of Majusi Irani imams of 9-year age. So these Iranian Zoroastrian imams have also fabricated many other reports in their hadith books about wives of prophets such as Maria from Alexander, Egypt. All crusaders and atheists always launched their slanders on the prophet, which are based on these forged hadiths of Bukharis and others. But the most trustworthy witness is the witness of God. And God has witnessed in noble Quran that Prophet Muhammad used to have best conduct. And a person with such high conduct at the age of 52 can never have sex with a 9-year-old girl. So a wise person must never believe in slanders of enemies of Islam and fabricated stories of Persian, Zoroastrian, Hadith imams, but in witness of God. So it's got loads of references as well. As I said, I don't really like mentioning about. Hold on. Let's see what this one is.
What'd you read that from? What was the source on there?
It's from a place called Facts WordPress.
Yeah, I've never heard that information before.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what they said. But it's gonna. I've got more information on it because it tells you who the guy was before Imam Tabari, who's saying this.
One thing I find interesting is a lot of times with the Shia and Sunni dates, they're always off. It's always like a 10-year mark. You know what I'm saying? Where they're off.
Yeah.
So like there'll be like 10 years difference in a war, or the one will say she's 6 or 9, the other will say she's 16 and 19. Or so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, the thing is, right? Now I could go a little bit deeper into this because I've got the report here. But the one thing I want to get across to people that are listening is that everything I'm doing, I'm just trying to prove to you that your way of thinking when it comes to 6 and 9 isn't the only way of thinking.
Facts, big. Yeah. That's the one thing I talked about in a video I made on my channel. It's where I was saying that a lot of like Christian apologetics people who try to come at Islam, period, or whatnot, they try to take like a Sunni argument and apply it to everybody, or a Shia argument and apply it to everybody, or et cetera, et cetera. Like, and that doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? That's not you can't do. That would be like going to a Christian and telling them like and coming at them with a Catholic argument. You know what I'm saying? Or a Jewish argument. Like it wouldn't be proper. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm just trying to prove to the fact that there's other information out there.
Facts.
And the fact of that information you're bringing is weak anyway, and it's been not annihilated by all the Sunni scholars. But there are some people out there that still hold on to it.
And it goes 100. You'll see with the verses I bring out, it goes 100% against the Quran.
Yeah, because I mean, as you said, you've got various, various, like the surah of An-Nisa. It means women.
Yeah, facts. Okay.
And then you've got the age of maturity, which is 40, and that is at the time of also being accounted for going paradise and etc. There's other things behind it, but it does state that at 40, that's the. Let me bring it up.
We may have to agree to disagree on that. However, bottom line is like, so there's a phrase that you can stipulate in terms of like people who before they've reached the age of puberty, right? There's a specific way of saying that, and there's the way of saying children before they've reached the age of puberty. There's a specific, and it's used in the Quran twice. You know what I'm saying? So that phrase, like, so a lot of people go to like Surah 65 ayat 4, like, oh yeah, see, this is where you can marry like a prepubescent person or whatever. And I'm saying that, like, nope, that's not what it's saying in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
and it's very, very clearly specified. And again, you can only marry and divorce women, and like they have that. That means they have to have reached the stage of maturity and whatnot, right? And so, so that's all there is to it. So someone saying 6 or 9 would have to prove that 6 or 9 is a viable age of maturity or whatnot. And so that's something I'm going to go into a little bit too. Again, we may differ on how it breaks down, but I'll be able to show why I say what I say.
Yeah.
So we can agree to disagree. That's not an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, cool. That's how it's meant to be. You know, like I wish the hadith, the people that follow hadiths would be like that.
I know that's right, man. Like, yeah. Here's the thing about Quran is you're not going to find fitna. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be warned against each other because, like, oh man, we got a difference of opinion on the basics. Like, you know, like because we all agree on the basics. Like, okay, whatever we disagree on is going to be like that's not going to affect your salvation anyway.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
It's true. But there's this one. I'll quickly give you this one. It's chapter 46, verse 15.
Yep.
And it's basically the age of decision. And it says that we enjoin the humans being to honor his parents. His mother bore him adorously, gave birth to him, and took intimate care of him for 30 months. When he reaches maturity and reaches the age of 40, he should say, "My Lord, direct me to appreciate the blessings you have bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and to do the righteous works that please you. Let my children be righteous as well. I have repented to you. I am a submitter." So you see straight away there, it says when he reaches maturity and reaches the age of 40. This ties in with what the guy was saying in regards to Aisha being 48.
That's interesting. And so, in the way I'm going to show it is going to tie into the way that where certain Shias talk about from 16 to 19. So we're going to cover the gamut here, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I like that actually. I like that a lot actually. We got all sides covered right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, we got hit from every direction. You know, it's just that, as I said, when like I like to really go to the Quran for everything because you can't go wrong. And that's the only thing that stuck out to me when I read it. It said when he reaches maturity and reaches the age of 40. So saying that around 40, maybe 38, something like that, is when maturity sets in. Now that could be an all-rounder maturity, with, you know what I mean, like soul, brain, physical, you know, etc. The whole lot, not just picking pieces here and there. It's more of a rounded verse. In order to say, you know, like a lot of people, they say, no, it wasn't like that. And they've got a lot of explaining to do when it comes to the verses, when it comes to about the orphans and this kind of stuff in, Nisa. They've got a lot of explaining to do. And I like just to be straightforward. And this was the only place really that added maturity with the age. So it was pretty like clear and it stood out obviously for me. So that's my flow on it, but I'll let you say your bit now. Yeah,
you know what? If I can, well, just to start off, like, so yeah. I use the same verse in same chapter in my presentation and whatnot. But so for me, the only difference that we're going to be talking about is like so where it says and reaches the age of 40. So there's two things being reached there, and so it doesn't say at the age of 40. It says and the age of 40. There's a way of saying at the age, but it says at and reaches the 40. So the way I understand it is that's a different age being reached, and it's when you look at it, it's specifying the fullness of what the age of maturity is. But I'll break that down in my presentation right quick. Let me share my screen real quick. Get the right one up. Bam.
So it's saying basically that chapter 46 verse 15 is just basically saying when you reach maturity and reaches the age of 40, the maturity is a vital criterion in being held responsible. A person who is mentally disabled will not be held responsible, obviously, for that.
Right.
And another indication that the age of responsibility is sufficiently long is in chapter 35 verse 37. And we understand that those who incur the fire of hell are those who did not take heed despite a lifelong chance. This means that all inhabitants of hell will have had a lifelong chance with continuous reminders. So the question that arises here is how long is a lifelong chance? 1 day, a year, 10 years, 20 years? So it's just giving you a round off. Yeah, I mean, here I've got when, not and. So I don't know if that's that's difference in making making it sound different.
Let me check that word by word because I don't think that's how the word by word breaks it down. Ida is there, but it's there at the beginning. Like, so it's like, it says in the, yep. Yeah, so it says when he reaches his maturity and reaches 40.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and reaches the age of 40. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that I'm sharing my screen or not.
Oh yeah. Let me pull it on.
Yeah, no
There
worries.
you go.
So for me, like, so again, the difference that we're gonna do is deal with is that I use both criterions just to bookend things and whatnot, right? As the, like, both sides of the rope, keeping the rope taut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and how I read it, 40 is the maximum age, and there's a minimum age, Barry, whatnot, because there's no actual test given in the Quran in terms of, like, so when it says, like, when they reach the age of marriage, then start the testament. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no actual test given. So let's say I'm the orphan and whatnot. Like, I would have no, if I feel like I've reached the age of maturity, but the person who's overlooking my property, you know what I'm saying, doesn't want to test me or whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. I would have no recourse unless I can state a minimum age, as far as but that's just a potentiality. We'll just leave it out there, right? So I'll just to explain for the people the method that I use, and something you'll probably be familiar with. I use I'll use the break down the surahs and ayats that I use for my method in the Quran. I call this the Furqani method or whatnot. Where I just use the Furqans to break down my jurisprudence and whatnot, and fill in the gaps and whatnot, keep things clear. So Surah 39, ayat 23, Allah has sent down the best statement. You already know what it is, a consistent book wherein is reiteration and whatnot. So within his hadith, there is much reiteration. So I'm going to find repetition of what I'm looking for. I'm not going to find just a one-off. You know what I'm saying? And I find that to be something that's very, very, very telling for a lot of people's story. For a lot of cats, like, for instance, like when you see people trying to put like muta in the Quran or something like that, right? Like, they go look at like one verse, right? They can't show you multiple verses saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So like that's one thing that always jumps out to me when I'm like, oh, that don't sound right. When I can't find it in multiple spots, I'm like, yeah. It was. And so you'll see here that's one of the base things that I use. And when I'm not clear about the reiteration, that's when I do this bit where I go to Surah 10, ayat 94. So if you are in doubt about that which we have revealed to you, then ask those who have been reading the scripture before you, etc. whatnot. And with that, I deal with the 46:12. And before it was the scripture of Moses to lead as a mercy, and this is a confirming book in Arabic. I mean, for my Shia homies out there, that word for lead there is actually imam, and it means as a guide, right? I rock again with Surah 2, ayah 53. And recall when we gave Moses the scripture and criterion that perhaps you would be guided. And that's the term wal furqan, right? And the criterion and whatnot. And again, you see the Quran is the only other thing called the criterion in Surah 2, ayah 185, when it speaks about Ramadan and whatnot. That the Quran, a guidance for the people, and a clear proofs and a guidance and a criterion. Again, wal furqan. What's interesting about that is in Surah 8, ayah 29, it stipulates, "Oh, you have believed, if you fear Allah, He will grant you a criterion and will remove from you your misdeeds and forgive you, and Allah is the possessor of great bounty." So for me, I kind of put both of them together and make them one, and make them a criterion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it even gives like us. This is an interesting term because it's the only time for Furqan is used this way. It's Furqanan, a criterion. It's the singular time it's used like that in the Quran. So like in the sense of criterion being reiterated, that this stands out amidst the criterions to me, in the sense like you put them together in a sense. But to reiterate that, I get this concept of in Surah 5, ayat 48, that we have revealed to you the book in truth, confirming that which preceded of the scripture. And it says like in the Sahih International says and criterion, but that's not what it says. It says and a guardian over it. So judge between them by what Allah has revealed, and do not follow their inclinations away from what has come to you from the truth. Like, so I know a lot of Muslims say like, well, I believe that the previous scriptures are corrupted or what. And I was like, yeah, I don't. If you believe that, cool. But it still says to judge between them, and that the Quran is the guardian over all that anyway. You know what I'm saying? It'll clear up the misconceptions and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, I go by the word by word. It does say and a guardian over it. And then, and this is something I really dig, Surah 28, 48, and 49, where it talks about, did they not disbelieve in that which was given to Moses before? They said they are but two works of magic, talking about the Quran and the Torah, right? Supporting each other. And indeed, we are in both disbelievers. Then it says, say, then bring a scripture from Allah which is more guiding than either of them, that I may follow it if you should be truthful.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this is where I stick to that singular for kind of concept, right? And with that, I'm going to jump right into the mistranslations that people use to put on Islam and the Quran and the Prophet. That just it's like, again, you heard my man going in all day about like how the Hadith crept in and like how the Persian is that like you're going to see it right here, fam. Like, so this is the Moshe Khan translation, right? Where this is where people try to say that prepubescent children are allowed to be married in the Quran, right? And again, like my man said earlier, like Nisa is a woman, right? So there's a consistent talking about women here, and it's not really children and whatnot. But you'll see where people get this all messed up and whatnot. And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the prescribed period, if you have doubts about their periods, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, all this that's in brackets is not there in Arabic. Please understand that. That's the whole point of it being in brackets. I.e., they are still immature. Their iddah prescribed period is 3 months. Likewise, except in case of death. All that not there in Arabic. And for those who are pregnant, whether they are divorced or their husband, that's not even there in Arabic, right? And that most of the parentheses ain't there. You know what I'm saying? Their iddah prescribed period is until they deliver their burdens. And whosoever fears Allah and keeps his duty to him, he will make his matter easy for him, right? So this is the concept that a lot of people use, like in the concept where it talks about like those who have no courses. A lot of people agree that this verse is talking about 3 groups of women, but it specifies in another spot what kind of women they're talking about. I'll explain that in a second. But this is the Yusuf Ali translation, for instance, right? And you'll see that whole section is not there in the brackets or whatnot. Such of you women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the prescribed period, if ye have any doubts, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, it just keeps rolling. You know what I'm saying? And then it is the same for those who carry life within their wombs. Their period is until they deliver their burdens, and for those who fear Allah, He will make their path easy. So now I'm jumping into the Sahih International version, right? And it says the same thing, but it clears it up, it shortens it up, and says, and also for those who have not menstruated. So a lot of people be like, oh yeah, not yet menstruated. So it's talking about women who haven't had their periods or whatnot. It's like, yes, no, doesn't say yet. So let's get into some clarification. Surah 33 ayat 49, it says this: "O you who have believed, when you marry believing women," again, the concept is always women, "and then divorce them," again, you're only divorcing women, "before you have touched them, then there is not for you any waiting period to count concerning them. So provide for them and give them a gracious release." So there's actually 4 groups of women. 1 group that has not been touched and 3 groups that have been touched. So for the ones that have been touched, their waiting period is 3 months. For the ones that have not been touched, there is no waiting period, which makes sense because the concept is if you've been touched, there's a potentiality of you being pregnant. If you haven't been touched, there's no way you can be pregnant. It's not even possible. So just for clarity's sake, again, just to make sure everyone understands this is women and all that type of stuff, Surah 65 is about divorce. It's literally the whole title of the surah, right? And so it always starts off, "O Prophet," or wherever, when you divorce women, okay? When you divorce women, divorce them for their waiting period and keep count of the waiting period, right? And it breaks down this concept of, again, when you divorce, so you can see in the word by word, you don't got to take my word for it. When you divorce them, the women, El Nisa, that's always women. That's never children. And that's going to become real clear pretty soon, right? Then divorce them for the waiting period and keep count of the waiting period. Now watch the 3 groups that it's talking about. And those who no longer expect menstruation among your women, if you have doubt, like, so let's say that they assume that they're on menopause, right? But just in case, then their period is 3 months because they've been touched. It's possible they've been touched. And also for those who have not menstruated, right? Now check this out. This will become clear in another verse that I read, okay? This will become real. Hold on, I didn't catch it. Hold on, I think I missed it in the first one. Hold on. I think I skipped past it. No. It's another verse. It's another verse. Yeah, Surah 228. Watch this right quick. "Divorced women remaining in waiting for 3 periods, and it is not lawful for them to conceal what Allah has created in their wombs, if they believe in Allah on the last day. So the people who have not menstruated, the women who have not menstruated, they have a potentially concealed pregnancy. They've been touched, but they haven't menstruated yet. Hence, they may be pregnant. They may be if so. I've known women who are pregnant, right? That they spotted while they were pregnant within the first 3 months, but they knew for a fact in the third month that they were pregnant because they had not menstruated for a multitude of months or whatnot, right? So
exactly.
So going into it, you might not menstruate the first month, but you might menstruate the second month or the third month and not be pregnant. So in order to make sure that there's not a concealed pregnancy, you know what I'm saying, you have to wait 3 months. So there's three groups of women. You have those who are potentially on menopause but you're in doubt. Those who have been, again, all three of which have been touched. Okay, because you've been because the ones who haven't been touched, there is no waiting period. So this is real clear now. They've all been touched. So there's a woman who hasn't who you don't expect to menstruate, but she still got to wait. One who hasn't menstruated in the sense to where like you touched her, but you don't know if she's pregnant yet or not. And then the third group is the one you know for a fact she's pregnant now. It says if she's pregnant now, like you got to pay for it now. Her waiting period is like if you divorce her, the waiting period is until that's done with. You know what I'm saying? That's what it says, right? And so again, if you want to get in the clear Arabic of it all, like this is not me. This is the word by word. And those who have despaired of the menstruation among your women, again, women, the cycle, women, right? Then their waiting period is 3 months. It rolls right into, and those who not they menstruated, right? It doesn't say yet. These are women who have been touched who have not menstruated in this particular instance, right? Not that they've never menstruated, but it's the fact that they've been touched and have not menstruated in this situation, right? And those who are pregnant, their term until they deliver their burdens. So it's three groups of women. And in Surah 2, ayah 228, it breaks down again. And those women who are divorced shall wait concerning themselves for 3 monthly periods. And it is not lawful for them that they conceal what a law has created, or that they conceal what has been created by a law in their wombs. So it's not lawful for a woman. Like, so if you're pregnant and you get divorced and there's no waiting period or et cetera, whatnot, or you don't know that you're pregnant until after you've been divorced or whatnot, and like you guys part ways, there's no way for the man to fulfill his duty and support the child and the woman in a situation, right? And the man is commanded to do so. So there has to be a waiting period for the woman who's been touched but has not menstruated in that sense, because she might have a concealed pregnancy. And it's not lawful to conceal a pregnancy because there's certain things that the man has to perform. He has to pay for certain things, etc. So the Quran, the greatest hadith, reiterates that there's three groups of divorcing women who have been touched, right? And it's always women. Always women. Menopausal women, pregnant women, or potentially pregnant women. Potentially pregnant. That's the ones who have not menstruated. That's the whole concept there. The waiting period for them is 3 months. And it is unlawful to conceal a woman's pregnancy. Hence, if she has not menstruated, she has to wait to see if she will menstruate. And if she's menstruated, all right, it's all gravy. If she hasn't, then she's pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And it just is what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
So going further, the Quran specifies stages of life from childhood to maturity to old age. The Quran specifies that the age of marriage being the stage of maturity and not childhood. The Quran specifies that puberty is the last stage of childhood. And the Quran specifies that puberty is a separate stage before maturity. So these are the stages of ages in the Quran. Surah 22, ayat 5. O people, if you should be in doubt about the resurrection, then consider that indeed we created you from dust, then from a sperm drop, then from a clean clot, and then from a lump of flesh, formed and unformed, that we may show you, and we settle in the wombs who we will for a specified term. Then we, stage 1, we bring you out as a child, and then we, stage 2, we develop you that you may reach your time of maturity, and then stage 3, we get into and among you is he who is taken early in death. But stage 3, and among you is he who is returned to the most decrepit old age that he knows. After once having knowledge nothing, and you see the earth barren, but when we send you down upon it rain, it quivers and swells and grows something of every beautiful kind. But it specifies in the word by word. You can see tiflan as a child, then you see as your maturity, right? And then you see old age, or old, child, maturity, old. Three stages. Right?
And then you got that verse that I mentioned where it says maturity is 40.
Yeah, I'm about to throw that in too.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, so in 40, 67, it has the same reiteration in the Quran, right? So you hear me talking about the reiteration concept, right? So it is He who created you from the dust, or from dust, then from a sperm drop, then from a clinging clot. Then stage 1, He brings you out as a child. Then stage 2, He develops you that you reach your time of maturity. Then stage 3, then further that you become elders, right? Same concept. As a child, you're mature, and again, that is not woman. It is never a woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Never, right? But it's a child, maturity, and old age, right? And then the verse my man just brought out, where he talks about, and we have enjoined upon man to his parents a good treatment. His mother carried him with hardship and gave birth to him with hardship, and his gestation and weaning period is 30 months. He grows until when he reaches maturity and reaches the age of 40 years. He says, etc. Whatnot, right? So again, there it specifies in the word, when he reaches his maturity and reaches 40, right? I forgot to put 40 there, but like so for me, it could say at the age of 40, and it does not say that there in the Arabic, right? So for me, that's the rate. Like this term here for maturity can also mean the fullness of his strength, right? Like the fullness of the maturity, right? Yeah. And so the way I read it, that concept of 40 is the fullness thereof when it says and he reaches. And so just to be clear, the reiteration of the Quran and the greatest hadith is the fact that there's 3 stages at 3 main stages of life, right? That He brings you out as a child, then you reach maturity, and then you become elders, right? And so let's understand women as opposed to prepubescent children. Okay, so in Surah 24, ayah 31, this is talking about women and their modesty. And there's a lot to deal with in terms of like what's not properly translated in this verse or whatnot, but I'm not going to touch. I'm just going to read it through this time. I'm not going to touch on that because the important part is it's talking about who you can show yourself to or who you can be modest with and not or whatnot. Yeah. And it breaks down this concept of or those male attendants having no physical desire or children who are not yet aware of the private aspects of women. So one more time, children who are not yet aware of the private aspects of women. Who are they? And it specifies again in the word El Tafli, like these are the children who are not aware of the private aspects of the side, the women. Specifies a difference between the two right there. Right? Who are they? Surah 24 at 58 breaks this down. Oh, you have believed, let those whom your right hands possess or those ruled by their oaths to you, and those who have not yet reached puberty among you, very specific term right here in Arabic. And those who have not yet reached puberty among you, ask permission of you before entering at 3 times, talking about the times of Salah, right?
That's the time of entering your bedroom, of your private time, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, right? So watch what it says there. Like, so, and those who have not yet reached puberty among you, ask permission, etc. Right? Next verse, right? But let me go to the word by word, just so people are clear, right? And those who have not reached puberty, el-khulama, very specific term, the puberty among you. Watch what it says in the next verse. And when the children among you reach puberty, let them ask permission at all times, as those before them have done. So you got to be a child before you reach puberty. Puberty is the last stage of being a child. And when reach the children among you, the puberty, again, el-khulama. And again, atfalu, the children. They are no longer children at this stage. No longer children at this stage. So, just to be clear, the Quran, the reiteration of the Quran and the greatest hadith is that there's that those among you who no longer menstruate, they need to wait 3 months. Those among you with a potentially concealed pregnancy, they've been touched but have not menstruated to show that they're not pregnant, they gotta wait 3 months. And those among you who are carrying and they're pregnant, their waiting period is until the pregnancy's done. All right. Simple question though. Why isn't the clear phrase, those who have not reached puberty among you, used in Surah 65, ayat 4? There's a clear way of saying it in Arabic. That phrase is nowhere in Surah 65, ayat 4. That's what the critics of Islam would like it to say. But it does not say that in any way, shape, or form. Any way, shape, or form. let me get into something else right quick. So the age of maturity is the age of marriage is the age of maturity. Surah 4 ayat 6, right? And test the orphans until they reach marriageable age. Then if you perceive in them sound judgment, release their property to them. So the concept of the age of marriage and the age that the orphans receive their property is the same concept, right? And test the orphans until when they reached the age of marriage. So orphans also receive their property at the age of maturity in multiple places in the Quran. So I'm going to show that the age of maturity and the age of marriage is synonymous. Surah 6, ayah 152, and do not approach the orphan's property except in a way that is best until he reaches maturity. Again, until he reaches maturity in the word by word. Surah 17, ayah 34, and do not approach the property of an orphan except in the way that is best until he reaches maturity. Same concept, same words, until he reaches maturity. And for more reiteration, Surah 18, ayah 82, so your Lord intended that they reach mature. Hold on. And as for the wall, it belonged to 2 orphan boys in the city. There was beneath it a treasure for them, and their father had been righteous. So your Lord intended that they reach maturity and extract their treasure. Again, the same concept. They reach their maturity. Joseph in the Quran is also the age of maturity when he goes into Egypt. And I'm going to read a couple of verses here because it's interesting here. Surah 12, ayat 21. And the one from Egypt who brought him said to his wife, make his residence comfortable. Perhaps he will benefit us, or we will adopt him as a son. And thus we, talking about God, we established Joseph in the land that we might teach him the interpretation of events. That literally says the meaning of hadith, or the interpretation of dreams. Literally says the meaning of hadith, though, right? And Allah is predominant over his affair, but most of the people do not know. Next verse. And when Joseph reached maturity, we gave him judgment and knowledge, and thus we reward the doers of good. So again, he reached his age of maturity at the time that he was able to interpret dreams, etc., whatnot. So what's intriguing about that is, again, if I want to look into that, and I want to, what was the age of Joseph's maturity? If I ask that question, Surah 10, ayat 94 says to go back to the people of the previous scripture if I want clarity, right? So when I go to those previous scriptures, I see that Joseph was 17 years old when he went into Egypt and had the ability to interpret dreams. It says in Genesis 37:2, and this is part of the Torah. Okay, this is part of the criterion of Musa. Genesis, and again, if you disagree with the concept, like if you think that the Torah is corrupt or whatnot, this is where I ask people just to show a clear abrogation from the Quran where it stipulates that he was not this age, etc. when he went in, because the Quran makes abrogations like when it says like Allah didn't have a son, or that the certain Jews say that Ezra was the son of God, and no, that's not the case. Instead, like there's clear abrogations in the Quran. So if you have an issue with this, just show me the abrogation and whatnot. So it says in Genesis 37:2, these are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flocks with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Same chapter of verse 5. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And this concept is in the Quran, where he's telling his dream to his brothers and his father. I didn't put it in here just for sake of time, just because most people who know it can look it up or whatnot. Same chapter though, right? Chapter 37. Then they're passed by. He told his brothers, they got jealous, they threw him in a well, and now they want to sell him and whatnot, right? Chapter 37, verse 28. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. So again, the Quran stipulates he was at the age of maturity when he was going into Egypt and whatnot, right? So in the same chapter, he's 17 right here. And further down the road, after he's interpreting the dreams for the Pharaoh, it stipulates that he's 30 years of age at the time. It says in Genesis 41 verse 46, and Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. So the way I read it, and this is just me, is the reiteration of both criterions. The inheritance age is the age of marriage. The age of inheritance is the age of maturity. Joseph is the age of maturity going into Egypt, which is 17 in the Torah. And so if I put the two together in the Quran and the Torah, the range of maturity is from 17 to 40. and whatnot. So 17 being the beginning of it, and 40 being the fullness of the strength of maturity. And again, this is where me and the brother definitely agree. For those who criticize Islam, if you're going to cite the hadiths, be consistent. Cite all the authentic Sunni hadiths, cite all the authentic Shia hadiths, and then compare them to the greatest hadith. Because the Quran says it's the greatest hadith. Now, the age of Aisha is disputed by Muslims, period. The Sunni hadith say she's 6 and 9. My man pointed out where he's saying it come from Shias or whatnot. Some of the Shia hadith say she's 16 and 19 and even higher than that. The greatest hadith in my concept says that that only mature women can be married, and mature women are 17 plus. And what's interesting about that is I was on Titans TV one time, and I was talking with Kalam, and I asked Kalam what was the age of the Prophet's youngest daughter when she was married off? Because from the concept of following the sunnah of the Prophet, you would have to follow what he did, right? You would have to follow his example. Therefore, you couldn't marry off your daughter any younger than what he married off his daughter. So Kalam did that. He did the mathematics for me right there, and she was 17 and change. She was just under 18 when she got married. But no matter how you slice it on the age, right? Because we can all differ on the age. The greatest hadith specifies that it's women, and it does not say children anywhere. And it could very easily say prepubescent children, and it does not say so.
And it says when they reach the age of 40. In which case, when you reach the age of 40, could be anywhere between 30s, up to 40s.
Yeah. So if you take it, my man reads the Quran, like what he read about Aisha being 40 is correct. If you take it my way, you know what I'm saying? Like it gives the range for what the Shias are talking about. So either or is not a child, you dig?
Exactly. So you're basically proving that it's not a child. There's a verse in the Quran that states that up to the age of 40, when he reaches 40 for maturity, which is from about 30 onwards, because you wouldn't from 20 say when he reaches. It has to be closer to the end, the goal of the age.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got obviously the brother, what he just showed you there. It states women, and it keeps mentioning maturity. Then it says to go into other scriptures. So you've already dealt with it from your own scripture. Now you've got extra bonus to go into the other scriptures, and you go to find that it was a lot older than what these people are saying. So which would lead you to believe that all this stuff that you're being fed is made up nonsense.
Yeah. And just to be clear, there's some in the Quran, some in the chat talking about Aisha's not mentioning the Quran. Like, yeah, we're not saying this is the age of Aisha. What we're saying is that the Quran doesn't allow to marry children and it specifies that you're supposed to marry women who are mature or whatnot.
That's it. Yeah, it's just the general overall. If anyone throws that, you're allowed to marry children, because this is what Muhammad Hijab done as well. Yeah. He didn't say Aisha. He said you're allowed to marry babies and children and all this kind of stuff.
And he used her 65 ayat 4 to do it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I specified, because he likes to say like Muhammad Hijab's like, oh, I'm an Arab scholar. Like I studied the Arabic or whatnot. Cool. Yeah. Then why doesn't it use a specific term? Also those who have not yet reached the age of puberty.
And why isn't it consistent throughout the Quran? Because you'll find that there's certain verses, like there's verses that mention serve, but what they do is when you go through the Quran, the same wording for serve, they switch it to mean worship.
Right.
Like the way, and there's certain sort of Arabic that means the way of life, they use as religion, when it doesn't mean religion. Because what they do in their dictionary, they say it can mean this and it can mean that, so it can mean both. And this is where people are getting a bit, that's how they're able to play and decide what they want to.
Right.
Salam Bernie Bay.
Hey, peace.
Peace, brother, man. That's one of my Quran brothers right there, Bernie Bay, right there.
Oh yeah, chapter 1, verse 4. Here alone I worship, here alone I seek for help.
Yeah, there's another Quranist.
Alhamdulillah. But as I was saying, so straight from the point that I said about that verse, it's clear to see. But what you done, you actually broke it down for the layman that wants to go into them verses, like what you said. You can use that one verse for someone that has got a brain. But if someone ain't got a brain and they want to sort of twist it around you and argue your point and all that kind of stuff, I think you cleared it up pretty good.
Yeah, because I actually did that because of a presentation that some famous Christian apologists were doing. I actually did a video about it on my Quran channel, and they flagged it and whatnot.
Nice.
I gotta wait till my flags up now. You know what I'm saying? Because of their presentation. But the first time I put their name in it, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I just took it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just got.
They were talking about like, yeah, you know, they were going hard on that motion con translation. I'm like, bruh, if you don't knock it off, like, because you know, daggone well, them brackets are not there. That full sentence about like they have not reached mature or they have not reached puberty yet. I was like, come on, knock it off, bro.
Exactly.
Knock it off.
Anything that you want to add, Bernie Bay? Anything you want to add, bro?
Man, you know, always chapter 3, verse 7 is always my favorite verse. I demonstrate to people where it says, "He it is who has revealed the book to you. Some of his verses are decisive; they are the basis of the book, and others are allegorical." And here's the kicker right here. Then those whose hearts is perversely follow the part of it which is allegorical, seeking to mislead and seeking to give it their own interpretation. And none knows this interpretation except Allah and those firmly rooted in knowledge. So that's just what I always get out of situations like this. In this case, regard of young, marrying, girls at young age, and like, no, they're just demonstrating chapter 3, verse 7, big time.
Yeah, for real.
It's like, even like, so you'll find that even these people with that verse, when it says to those who are firm in knowledge, they'll straight away think Gibbons, took the thumbing, and all the other scholars know that they've got sort of experience. But one thing we have to remember is that, like what God says in the Quran, that God is the teacher of the Quran, not Medina University, and I'm sure they didn't have certificates as well, and obviously the Quran explains itself. So if God's the teacher and he gives you guidance, no matter what tongue you speak or you receive the sort of the message in, he will give you guidance, and you'll understand it even if you don't speak Arabic. But that verse, I've heard people saying, "See, told you that we have to go to the scholars," and then they start pointing up, Saudi Arabia.
Well,
that's why I go to that stuff and go to the word by word. Like, okay, tell me you're saying this. Then tell me it's not saying that. Like, why doesn't it say this? Why doesn't it say that? Like, there's a way.
They hate it. When you start questioning, they hate it. Yeah, if you do word by word, trying to, but with this, but that, they try to get off as quick as possible.
Yeah, facts, 100%. What were we saying?
I was just going to say real quick, you definitely inspired another verse or two out of me. When they speak of the scholars that's supposed to teach the Quran, I said, well, then what about in chapter 55, verse 1 and 2, where it says the beneficent taught the Quran?
Right. I like how my man cites Surah 5 ayah 44, you know what I'm saying, in his thumbnails and whatnot. Because, you know what I'm saying, like, if you don't judge by the verses, you're the kafir, bro. Exactly. You are the kafir, bro.
Yeah, and that's another thing. When you say, like, to a lot of people, they say, but hold on a minute, on the day of judgment, there is a verse in the Quran which I can't get off the top of my head, but it actually states that you're going to call out to God and you're going to say, why didn't you send messengers so we could follow your verses, not the Hadith and Sunnah of man.
Right.
And another thing is, with the rich language of Arabic, a lot of people have got to think about this, is that they read the Quran and they know that God said this is the best Hadith. And it's it's the Sunnah of Allah.
Facts.
Why switch it and go Hadith and Sunnah and now strap it to something else?
Yo, listen to this. My man Ahmed breaks it down the code. He has a simple way of breaking it down. He says that they insult the Quran by calling it the book and then say that the Hadith is the wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Like they make the Quran the mere book and they make the Hadith the wisdom. You know what I'm saying? That's craziness to me, bro.
Yeah, so it's another source of law.
It's a whole nother religion, bro. It's another
But God is the only source of law because that states out in the Quran as well.
Right. In the verses where it says, what other hadith will you follow after this? It says, what other hadith after Allah and his verses will you follow?
Yeah, exactly.
Because his verses are his hadith, right? So so you can show where the Quran is the best hadith and where it's the hadith of Allah, right? But you can't show anywhere where the prophet has a hadith anywhere, or he has a sunnah anywhere in the Quran.
Of course, and there's some people that actually say that what happens is the people that gave you the Quran, the people that sort of was involved in sort of bringing the Quran along. We know that God's in control of it, but just say for God's law that they say the people that brought the Quran along are the same people that brought the hadith along. So if you reject the hadith, you reject the Quran. I've heard this a lot.
No, Surah 3 right? Like it specifies, like first of all, the law gave us the Quran in the pre-existence, right? That's what he says. He says he gave it to all the prophets before they even came down, and they agreed. They agreed together to confirm the joint, right? Yeah. And then we agreed. You know what I'm saying? But it said la ilaha before he even came down.
Exactly. Of course.
We're not trying to remember the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
That's why the book is called The Remembrance.
Yeah.
It's something we already have within us. That's the whole concept. We have it within us already.
It's like even when you look at the criteria and what God says in regards to it's clear, fully detailed, protected, etc., and you run through the list of things. The hadiths fail on every single one of them.
Yeah, back.
Every single one. So already that's not wahi. And I have got a presentation that I should do soon, really, in order to clarify this wahi that they keep using, because I think I've done a response video to Jake, a guy that was Quran alone, and he went to Sunni, and he was saying, and he was saying about the Qibla change and this and that, all to do with a certain ayah in the Quran, and I used that actual ayah against him, and I'm still waiting for a response. He still ain't gave me it.
What was he saying?
Do you know what? I forgot. You'll have to check it out on my channel.
No worries.
There's a video on my channel, Jake Brancatelli or something like that. Brancatella. Yeah, just check that out.
Oh, was he saying like, so how do you know where the Masjid al-Haram is or whatever? Like that kind of
like the Masjid al-Haram, and how that was when the wahi was sent down to the Prophet, which is the hadith, and things like that. And he actually sent me a message after, and he did say to me, let me know when you got a live stream, because I want to come on and I want to basically challenge it. And I said, but hold on a minute, what are you going to challenge? I was only using the Quran verses. So what are you going to challenge? Are you going to challenge the Quran, its verses? And it shows you blatantly you're a kafir if you do that.
That's the cold part, bro. Like, that's the part that I don't understand. It's like, y'all, it's like when the Catholics just flat out like, we're going to change the Bible. We're going to change the Bible and tell you that we changed it. Like they're proud about it. They're like, yeah, no, this is ours. Right? They used to have this many books. We got this many books, and the King James got this. You know, it's just like, well, what? Exactly. It's like, bro, like, come on. It's like Usman telling you, I burned the Qurans, bro. Like, just flat out just saying it. It's like, damn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And y'all are like, and then y'all expect me to take the hadith, but it's like, no, bro. Like, no. It's like, and you expect me not to challenge the renditions of the Quran that I got now. Like, you told me they were burned though. So how do I not double check now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would be a fool not to.
I'll let Bernie Bay, if he wants to add anything to, grab some good deeds, be free to,
I was just gonna say, like, regarding the Christianity, a lot of the Muslims don't know that they Christianize Islam all over again. You know,
you said
no way to God but to Jesus. Yeah. No way to understand the Quran other than through the Hadith and the Sunnah of Muhammad. Now, Muhammad is talking about more than Allah. But what I always like to share with people is that, first of all, we have no issue with Hadith. We just like to follow the best, according to 39, verse 23. Allah has revealed the best Hadith, a book that is consistent, repeating its injunctions, whereat do shudder the skins of those who fear their Lord. And then 39 verse 55 says to follow the best of what has been sent down to you from your sustainer. Okay?
Big
regarding the hadith, even I actually took my personal time to count how many hadith there are literally in the Quran, and I lost count, but I know there's over 300 hadiths, and two of them that I like the most, which is in 46 verse 9. It says, "Say, O Muhammad, I am not a novelty among other messengers, nor do I know what will happen to me or to you." Here's the 5-star right here. "I follow nothing other than what is revealed to me. I am no more than a clear warner." So Muhammad right there is telling you, I'm just doing what I'm told. So if we were to follow the best example, it would be to do what he was told, and that was to follow what was revealed. But for some, they just want to do their own thing anyway. So my last favorite hadith from the Quran, where even Muhammad himself was really disappointed at people like that, where it says in 25 verse 30, the messenger said, "My Lord, my people have deserted this Quran."
Yeah. Hey, Bernie, did I send you the compilation I made of all the times it says all the hadiths from the Quran?
No, please do.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You got it, bro. Oh, it was Ahmed I sent it to. Yeah, I forgot to send it to you. Okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah, because I got every, it's like 200 and something, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a trip. Man. And it literally, it's literally made to disarm people who use the hadith to come after the Quran. It's hilarious. And when I went through all of them, I was like, bruh, it's like tailor made. Like if I was going to give somebody just like a dawah book, like just the verses that break down where we're talking like how you disarm the hadith, like literally, like when you think about it, like most of the verses we read saying them like that. Even the one about the Quran being the best hadith, etc. Whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? It's so.
It's like, when they said there's sometimes, sorry to break you off, sometimes they say that, chapter 33 verse 21, they say this is what requires Muhammad's hadith. So then, so then what I say to them is so what about, why wouldn't the verses like chapter 60 verse 4 to 6 require Abraham's hadith?
Right, fact.
And which books narrate Abraham's hadith?
Thank you.
In fact, leave that. Where's Gabriel's hadith?
Thank you.
Because Gabriel was a messenger. He was a messenger that Muhammad was following, because he was receiving the message, innit?
Yeah, we should have the hadith of all the previous prophets.
Of course.
We should have a couple books.
Yeah.
Not just the Bible or the Torah.
Yeah. That's the cool part. Y'all just preserve the sayings of Muhammad. How come Muhammad didn't preserve the sayings of Abraham, etc., like they're talking about? Like where it's a whole separate, like he should have left you with the Quran and a real big, like, so y'all should already have like that big encyclopedia waiting for me, like from a Muhammad, you know what I'm saying? Get with all the other narrations from the other prophets.
Exactly. And even in the Quran, Muhammad actually states that bring me another book other than the Quran.
Facts.
Chapter 28, verse 49, he said, I'll follow it. And that's a statement of Muhammad is saying, bring something else other than the Quran. Obviously, even Sunnah. He said, bring it. If it matches up, I'll follow it. It doesn't match up.
And I think 2849 basically specifies he's even talking like the Torah and the Quran. He's like, bring something better than these two.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's talking to the Jews like, hey, y'all rejected. He's like, you rejected Moses, bro. Don't even worry about it.
But he actually says, this is why I think he's talking about the Quran, because in chapter 17, verse 46, he states the Quran is enough.
Hold on real quick. He talks about both of them in 40 and 28, 49. And so in 16, what are you talking about? Verse 16.
And chapter 17, verse 46.
Or 17, 46. Okay.
It says, and we place upon their hearts coverings, lest they should understand it and the deafness in their ears. And when thou rememberest thy Lord alone in the Quran, they turn their backs in aversion.
Oh, that's the verse that the Bernie cites all day. Yeah, that's the one of the Quran alone verse.
Yeah, because they say sometimes Allah alone and things like this, and it's Quran. But and obviously, and in the Quran, in chapter 29, verse 51, and chapter 17, verse 59, it states that the Quran is the only miracle and revelation.
Well, this definitely tells us a couple things from what God, that this is nothing new. Chapter 9, verse 34 say, "Oh, you who believe, the priests and the religious scholars cheat the people out their money, and they divert everybody from the path of Allah." Chapter 6, 112, and thus we have made for every prophet So this is nothing new. What's going on with Muhammad? We have made for every prophet an enemy, devils from mankind and jinn, inspiring one another, decorative speech and delusion. But if your Lord had willed, they would not have done it. So leave them in that which they invent. So this is just a test. This is all just a test. The reason even for the hadith to exist is a test. You know, and it just shows it just shows you how challenging human nature is, you know, and according to 18 verse 54. And we have cited in this Quran every example for the people, but man was always most argumentative.
Exactly.
Some just want to argue.
Yeah, they just want to shut up and listen, isn't it? We've also got the Quran, the teacher of the Quran is God. And as I said, try to explain to a lot of people, it's not anyone else. I mean, you could be fluent in Arabic and you could be studying it all day. If you're not sincere and you really don't want it and you're committing shirk or blind following, God's not going to open your eyes, lift that veil over the book and give you understanding.
Yeah, who was the one who taught Joseph how to read or how to interpret dreams? Like that's why I stipulate that all day, because it says that it says that we were the ones who taught him the interpretation of narration, or the interpretation of hadith, or the interpretation of dreams, etc. But it says hadith there.
Yeah, and that's when God says He's the teacher of the Quran. It's easily sort of mentioned when He says in chapter 96, verse 1-5, that He and thy Lord is the most noble, who taught by the pen, taught man what he knew not. And that's clear as well. He's the only teacher, but like people have to go to Medina, and they have to be puppets of the system. They didn't have all that back in the day, did they? All that Medina stuff, certificates and everyone clapping and all that kind of stuff. So there was something that I wanted just to mention in regards so that everyone can understand. Just do a little bit of research on this. But the whole of Islam is finalized in the last testament of God, the Quran. That is the final edition of all scriptures and successor, and supersedes. It's a superseder of the Torah and Bible. When the last prophet died, he left behind only the written Quran by scribes, and left behind he's one hadith in written form. In fact, the prophet forbade to write any of his hadith except the revelations of God of Quran. This ban continued for guided caliphs too. So what is in the Quran is Islam, and what is not in the Quran is not part of it. So in the 686 AD, there were two superpowers on the planet, that's the Romans and the Persian Zoroastrians. The legend Muslim generals like Khalid bin Walid bulldozed these both superpowers in 636 AD with a gap of just 6 months between both. The Persians felt deep humiliation for their defeat, as they lost their millennia empire in the hands of the Muslims in the battlefield of Qadisiyah and Walaja, in which their almost whole army was slaughtered by the Muslim soldiers. After the defeat, the Persian Zoroastrians made plan to join Muslims. Now listen, to join Muslims in order to harm them, to take revenge from Islam. For this purpose, they prepared pseudo-Zoroastrian imams like Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Abu Dawood, Ibn Majah, Nasir, Tirmidhi, and Yaqub Kilani of the Shia, Al-Kafi, all Persian, no one Arab. They gave them the duty to forge mantun and chains of millions of hadiths against Islam during the Abbasid period, 750 to 1258 AD. Their books are full of crap, and one in that is the best man Muhammad, the best man Muhammad is a paedophile by forging 9-year-old marriage of the story. They also attacked protected Quran by saying that a part of Quran has been eaten by a goat. The criminal Ibn Majah, they forged hadith of the Miraj in order to blend 5 daily namaz rituals of a Zoroastrian prayer into Islam around 773 AD. For this purpose, they utilized Queen Khazran, who was the Zoroastrian mother of a Caliph Harun Rashid Abbasi. In this way, they turned the table of Islam at 180 degrees and converted Deen of Islam into satanic religion of mullahs and imams. Deen means divine system of life. This is why we do not see any units, any details of 5 namaz prayers, incomplete, and fully detailed Quran. The Salah of Quran is never 5 rituals. We have discussed this. Obviously, they've discussed it further on in the page. But 300 years after the death of Prophet, the Persians, Zoroastrians started all-out ideological war against Islam by forging over 4 million hadiths in which they placed countless slanders on Islam and the Quran and the Prophet. They fabricated mutually conflicting stories of compilation of Quran to discredit the Quran. For example, the Quran, which is Islamic law, says during menstruation, do not sleep with a lady, but evil Bukhari tells you Prophet slept. Had Prophet gone against commandments of Quran? Out of question. So the Quran says on the last day, all good and bad deeds will be weighed, and who has more good deeds will go to paradise and the other to hell. But Zoroastrian Bukhari says, who says La ilaha illallah will go to paradise, even if he commits millions of murders daily. So we go on to see that the Zoroastrian Bukhari has not insulted just Aisha. They defamed the Prophet and they lied against God. Also, you'll find that where is it now? Oh, anyway, so I just wanted to give you just that little bit of information into why all these hadiths come about and exactly what is the plan. And it is an ideological warfare because that's the best. It's the best way. You know, we see it with MK Ultra. We see it with the subliminal messages and things like this. And people are not seeing these signs of like going into the church and seeing the sun god Ra, and you're worshipping sun god and Sunday, and you're breaking the Sabbath and you're doing this. And I mean, it's full of satanic occult rituals. And I just wanted to throw that one in because I didn't know if you lot knew about the Abbasid bit with the Zoroastrians.
No, I'm learning a little bit about that now. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so that was just a spin-off from what I've gathered and what I've found out from this site as well. As I said, with these sites, I don't just follow them blindly. I do go and do the research. And I've got thousands and thousands of books of history and things like this. I'm having to go through so many encyclopedias and different ones to make sure there isn't any conflicting evidence, you know? And that's why it's taken me ages to put this stuff together. But
in your studies, have you run across a man named Ibrahim and Nazir?
No, see, so I'll tell you why I'm sort of staying away from them type of people, and this is my own way. See, with people that are not Arabic or nothing to do with Islam, they're going for facts. They've got no idea in order to corrupt or to switch or spin. Do you know what I mean? They're going for the facts. Well, historically, is that facts? Is that facts? Is that facts? See, with anyone that's Arab or Persian, I'm not saying it all bad, but I'm just saying I have a suspicion that things could be mistranslated to suit. Because what it is there's also, before they send Qurans out, Saudi, before they send Qurans out, it goes through a filtering process.
Hmm.
Why does it have to go through a filtering process?
Exactly. So Abraham and Nazim was a theologian from who lived in 775, 845 and whatnot, and he developed a Quranist madhab. He was actually somebody that I was wondering if you ran into him because the Shias quote him quite a bit because he developed a concept where he rejected consensus based upon the fact that the Sahaba had fitna. You know what I'm saying? He was like, well, obviously. He's like, obviously they're off. You know what I'm saying? And so he developed a madhab based upon the concept of using the Quran and pure reason alone for coming to the sources of Islamic law and whatnot. Yeah. And so I was just curious. He was of the Mu'tazilites and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And so like there's when the Sunnis try to talk about like, you know what I'm saying, like there's certain schools of thought at a period of time, this, that, and the third, like they can't really get around your boy and whatnot because he's somebody who the Shias know about. So,
and it's not that, you know, when they start giving, because that's what I've noticed as well, you start talking to them, they start putting names on you. Oh, you're Ahmadiyya, you're this, you're that. But hold on, this is what I say to them. But are you meant to be doing that in the Quran? Does it say you can put people into sects?
It says don't do that.
Exactly. If you put yourself or anyone else into a sect, you're out the fold of Islam. You're not a Muslim no more.
Right. That's why I say Quran is just the method that I use. You know what I'm saying? It's not my sect. I say this so people understand. I don't use the hadith when I come to my understanding of jurisprudence or whatnot.
I mean, personally, I just follow the Quran. I'm a Muslim, and I just follow the Quran. I just keep it plain and simple, you know. All this like Quranite, Quranayun, and
Quranayun,
yeah, and Al Quran, and who are them other ones? The submitters, the 19 cult. You know, the number mathematical 19. Now, I'm not denying that there is some sort of there could be some, you know, but see, the thing is, you know, when they say science, right? They say science is a miracle of the Quran. I tell them, see now, I tell you what it is. I reject anything that they say is the miracle inside the Quran. I claim the Quran is the miracle. So everything inside that Quran is obviously a miracle, but my first intention is the Quran is the miracle, the actual Quran, the book that we have, rather than what's in it. Like, how can I put it? You know, like they'll pick to sort of like a scientific. Oh, it's got loads of science, a miracle of science, of mountains and all that. But what is that? Why you're believing it? Are you believing the Quran and you're believing in the Creator because of only them miracles, rather than believing in the whole book, you know, and nothing but the book? So so how can I put it? I hear a lot of people when they say the Quran has this miracle in it, has that miracle in it. They even say that Muhammad was illiterate so they can make it even more special. But the way I see it and the way I say it is that I believe all the miracles in the Quran, of course. But I don't believe God because of them miracles. I believe God because it's the blueprint inside me. We've all got the blueprint in us.
Right.
You know, from the start when we testified, yeah, there's only one God. When we come out the back of Adam.
To me, that is the miracle right there. Is because like the Quran stipulates it's the remembrance. It has a falsification test, and it says prove me wrong, right?
Exactly, and this is just a book to go in line with the blueprint that you've got to wake you up.
Right.
And that's how I see it. But a lot of people they use the miracle of the science, and yeah, I believe that, but don't use that as a way of trying to make someone believe. You know, there's other avenues in order to get someone to believe. You know.
Thanks.
You know, they can't keep using like the fingerprints and pegs of mountains, and yeah, that's all good. That's all good. But what are you trying to prove? Let's just get to the clear-cut point. Is there a God or ain't there a God? Now let's get to that point. Let's stop talking about nature and all this, because you have to wake up the blueprint that's in us. And the only way you're going to do that is getting them to remember God. Not you can't get them to remember God through nature. You know, you go from life and death, innit? That sort of thing. You created and you're going to die. And that's what you sort of stick on. But that's my way of looking at it. I mean, other people do use that method, but I don't.
Yeah, I do consider myself a naturalist.
I mean,
I'm unique. I'm unique in the sense that I'm a theological naturalist.
Like, don't get me wrong, Dave. Once you believe in a creator with no proof, this is the thing. With no proof, I believe you have a stronger connection with your creator, because you haven't needed all the proof. Whether that's like someone having a car accident, near enough dying, and then they turn to God. You have to think to yourself, it's because of a near-death accident that they've turned to God. So there's many ways, but I believe by using it as a scientific miracle is the wrong way in order to call to God. Yes, it might get people to God. I'm going to slip on the path, you know. And I've noticed the hadith people follows man-made hadith. They use that, and then what happens is they bring them into their shook, if you like. So you've gone one shook, now you're in another shook. Because I don't get it. I mean, like all these people, do you really like praying when you're not praying? Do you really like, I don't know, if you suffer dermatitis, washing all the time when you're, you know, it's not necessarily what that mentions in that verse where it talks about wudu. you know, because there's a context behind it, and all this other stuff. So, yeah, to me, to be honest with you, the book is the book. You just got to make sure you prove that it is the word of God, and that you don't disrespect their gods, because it says it in the Quran. If you disrespect their gods, they're going to disrespect your God, then you've lost them. And that's what a lot of people do when they say, the Bible's corrupted, the Torah's corrupted. Well, I mean, you haven't looked in the Quran yet. I'm not saying it's corrupted, it's just mistranslated.
All over the place.
Yep. So they're a bit naffed on their own thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard.
I found worse mistranslations in the Quran than I have in the previous script. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. Like it blew my mind when I found out what was not there, what was actually there. I was like, what? What he said? It blew my. Again, like I'm trying to tell you, bro. I'm still trying to figure out how they got good tidings and made that into sexual relations. Like I still like that one. Like I had to I had to walk away for a second. Like that's crazy. Like I'm about to start.
There's Saudi Arabian sheikhs talking about it's okay to have sex with 9-year-olds and things like that. I mean, it's disgusting.
Yeah, that's craziness, man. Because so you got children like in Yemen dying from sexually inflicted wounds from their wedding night. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I didn't know that.
They're obviously not. They're obviously prepubescent. They're obviously nowhere near mature. They're dying at 11 and 10 when it's like, come on, fam, what are you doing? But they got moms and whatnot signing off on the whole thing.
Yes. Do you know what it is? And I do believe it's when you look back into the Saudi family, you'll find Jewishes in there. Now, I'm not saying all Jews.
No, I got you. No, I'm with you.
If there's any Jews out there, I'm not talking about the real Jews.
Because historically there was a set of Jews that were down with the Prophet and a whole set of Jews that were against him. You know what I'm saying? But it says that in the Quran too, though. You know what I'm saying? It's what it is.
Yeah, and Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Christians, I've got a bit of issue with them because it looks good them. You know, that was a sign off from the Levites, the priesthood. That was a sign off.
What was your
basically with the Christians, you know, they always use Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
Number one, it's as referred that they were Jewish, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. This is what it claims. Some of them say that they didn't even exist, and it was just made up by the priest in order to not make them superior, because there was a lot of them. I.e., it was more of a political, take their money, you know, slap their ass if they wanted to slap their ass now and then, you know, take their just control them basically. Because if you look into the Christians, all like, I'll give one cheek, I'll give the other. You know, love the you know, this person, love your enemy, you know, this kind of stuff.
Make them docile.
Yeah, that's it. And that's basically why the Jews done it. And as I said, the Levites, they were priesthood and they were very intelligent. Very intelligent.
Hey, they ducked out and hid out in the Roman Empire, so it makes sense.
Of course, because the Romans and the who was it? The Romans and there was another group. I forget who the other Romans and anyway, there was another empire. They basically said Greeks, the Greeks, and they said that their opinion of the people at that time is that they were treacherous and they were cutthroats. That was their opinion. But what happened is they weren't talking about the real children of Israel. They were talking about the Levites, because there was like a few tribes, weren't there, of Jewish people. And with these Levites, they were the ones that were the treacherous ones. And they were the ones that wanted to exterminate the white race. And the reason why is because they were getting persecuted. There was another empire that came over and they took the real Jews, the children of Israel, the real children of Israel. And they left the Levites, they left them, apparently. And they obviously began to grow, get bigger and stronger. And obviously they used their brains. They come up with something. And I mean, the rest is history, to be honest with you.
So where are you sourcing that from? I'm not familiar with that history.
Let me see where this book is. It's a big, massive book, and it's all about the Jews, like different tribes, different. Just wait there, mate. Let me just.
No worries.
Yeah, just gonna bring up when it decides to load up.
Sounds like an interesting read, that one.
I was fascinated because I've read 3 books now, and it's all leading to the same.
Same
It's
author?
all saying the same stuff. Yeah, no, not the same author. All different authors.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so but it's all saying the same stuff,
Right.
and they're at different times as well. Like different years, they would produce the books in different years. I mean, I've got tons of books. There's a PDF site that you get massive amounts of books. I mean, I've got Lord Shiva. I'm going through his stuff. It's enough. Where is this book? Just bear with me.
No worries.
I've got the Book of the Dead. I'm going through that. I mean, it's not the Christ, because no, it's not that one.
Yeah, you gotta be curious about that bit about them wanting to exterminate the white race.
Yeah, no, he said that's what he said. He said because the Jews they were talking about, they were of Yemeni color. They were Semites. So they were like, do you say a brown, like a olive? You know the people in Palestine.
Yeah, and I know the people.
The original Jews, they were Semites. They weren't like what they are now, blue-eyed and blonde hair and all that. Like, what's his name? Netanyahu or whatever his name is.
Mm.
Yeah, they didn't look like him.
No.
Yeah, so he's more of an Ashkenazi Jew. Anyway, I can't find it now, and that's damned because I was in the middle of reading that.
No worries. If you find it, let me know what's up. Do a show on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's a deep book, and it goes from the beginning of all of the, and it's all backed up with historical facts. It's not hearsay and other people say. There's actually proof, whether it's scripture, whether it's, and this is why they say, and I know this is going to piss a lot of people off, and I'm not saying it, but these people are saying it. These historians and that. There is no scriptural evidence. Now, there's scriptural evidence of like Thor, Zeus, Isis, Orisis, and these Cleopatra, and all these sort of idols that they had back in them days, right up to the present day. There's historical proof, but they can't find any historical proof when it comes to Jesus, Moses, and Abraham. Now, I know people are they're going to probably have me at the throat. I'm not saying nothing. But what I am saying is that this is something that I will be trying to venture through the process of putting all this stuff together. And it might appear, it might upset a few people. But as I said, the Quran will always be the foundation. I've got that guy, that.
So are you saying? Hold on. So real quick. So are you saying that the Quran says that there's no Jesus?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that this is what the historians are saying in regards to proof, right? Because historians, they rely on proof. When they talk about Petra, right? Now they say it's Mecca. Sorry, they say it's Saudi Arabia in the Quran. And they try to give you all this flannel about, it's this, it's that. Right. But what they've worked out is Petra. And when you look in history and archaeological evidence and that, and the fact that they had tents and,
Petra makes way more sense. And
Petra makes sense where everyone gathered, whether it was the Jews, whether the Christians. Saudi Arabia was way over there in the desert, even though it is a type of desert, Jordan, but they still had stuff where you could grow stuff and eat and all this kind of stuff. But when you look under the archaeological evidence and that, it pinpoints there. Then when you get that evidence and then you go word for word and you dissect anything that what they try to link to Saudi, and you dissect what the word for word translation is, like this Dr. Kashif Khan does, you then a bigger picture starts opening. and then you find more flaws, and you think, why are they trying to cover that up? So you're just opening avenue after avenue, and it's not that the Quran's wrong, it's the misinterpretation. They've added all the prefixes and suffixes at the end because Old Arabic didn't have that. If you look at the Old Arabic, it didn't have all that. It might have had a few dots, but it didn't have all the ending, and it was always a root word, you know, pretty specific. But now they've added all this stuff onto the ends and the beginnings in order to obviously make their dictionaries up. So now you've got what the Zoroastrians wanted, which is a storybook, which they're good at telling, which I call it Hollywood.
Yeah.
But so at the moment, I'm just going through it. So as I said, I'm not doubting nothing. But then again, I ain't accepting anything either, because if they can misinterpret a few things like what you said about having sexual relations with your wife, and you said they translated it as something else, and
no, they translated something else as that. Like, so it's supposed to be good tidings. It's supposed to be good tidings, right? Like Bashir, right? But they made it. Yeah. They turned it out. The only time they ever made it with sexual relations was the one verse with Ramadan, bro. And I was like, whoa, that's craziness, bro. Like, it was funny too, because like when me and Ahmed did the video, there was a woman who was like, you know what, we like the way that you went. I like the way you went through the verse, because she was like, I was trying to look for something where the Quran would encourage a husband and wife to study together. She's like, well, you finally gave me something. I was like, yeah, well, all right, that makes sense to me. Cool.
Yes, as I said, you've really got to be careful on what's been like everything's just been put out there, to be honest with you. But this is why God says he wants you to challenge the Quran. So if he says in the Quran, all right, there's Jesus, yeah, he gives you a story of Jesus, and someone says, no, there ain't. Now this is something you've got to do. They're challenging the Quran. Now you've got a mission on your hands.
Yeah.
You have to challenge the Quran. He wants you to challenge it. And that's the same with like either blind following it and thinking, I don't know, Salah means prayer, and then you start banging your head off the floor 5 times a day. Or does it mean following closely to God's commandments? There's a total difference. And if you blind follow, look, already you're adding something to the deen. That's shirk. You shouldn't be adding anything to the book. So yeah, it's mad times we live in, mad times, and you just have to think to yourself, people back in them days, you know, normal Gentiles, if you like, people with no scripture, to come with a scripture and try and prove to them it's from God, would it have really had the trouble that we're having now? The trouble that we're having trying to sift through it and trying to make sense of it ourselves. Did they have that problem back then? And if they didn't, why didn't they? I don't know if anyone can answer me that as well. If there's anyone out there that can maybe answer it. Anything you want to say on that one, bro?
Now, what was the last bit?
You know, like the way we're trying to sort of sort it out now, if you like. You know, we've got questions and we're finding things out, and these people say no, it doesn't mean that, and we're clear to say yeah, it does mean that. Mm-hmm. Did they have this problem back in the Prophet's time?
That's why they had fitna, bro. Like not at the time of the Prophet, after he died, like right after he died. Like
I mean, like when the Prophet had the revelation, exactly why?
No one was tripping on it, bro.
But we have to think to yourself now, what's the difference between then and now? Why have we got so much problems now when it was so clear to them then?
Because when the Prophet passed, people saw a chance for a power grab.
When the cat's away, the mice play.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the problem I'm having with all this researching. We shouldn't need to do all this. We should just go, yep, we accept. That's it, done, and carry on with our lives and enjoy ourselves. But what are we doing? Like, and obviously remember God, but we're finding that we're focusing too much into what I would call frivolous things. They're not even, if they were translated right, the meanings were right, you wouldn't need to, you can move on to something else. But you're finding that, like, when I was Sunni and I was following the hadiths and all that, when I went to Quran alone, I started fresh. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. And I thought, you know what? I'm learning, I'm finding it hard to learn now the Quran than I did having hadiths with it.
For me, it became like I had a small period like that because, like, so I spent 3 years trying to disprove the Quran, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I was charitable with it at every turn. Like, I was trying to give it every chance I could, understanding. Like, so I knew that people had mistranslated the previous scripture. So, like, I was like, okay, let me see if there's a better way of translating this. And when I did that, I was like, okay, these guys are playing games. This is a whole nother different thing. Oh, like, okay. Then it became fun for me. I was like, yeah, it became like a game. Like, yeah, let me go figure this out right quick. Let me put the puzzle together. You know what I'm saying? And now I've done it so much to where, like, I said, like I said, I just have a methodology. So if I have a question, I just run it through the method. You know what I'm saying? And let the method tell me what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because either the verses are clear or they're not. And if they're not, then I'm not reading it right. I'm either reading it too literal or too figurative, one of the two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. So anything you want to say, Bernie? You've been pretty quiet, bro.
He might be playing daddy right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, looking for a lighter for the family. But no, like, even for the I just thought this was interesting. Like, when the Quran is speaking about hadiths, it always have like a negative vibration to it. And like this is what I mean. Chapter 23, verse 44, it says, "Then we sent our messengers in succession. Every time there came to a nation its messenger, they denied him. So we made them follow one another to destruction, and we made them hadiths. So away with the people who do not believe." And last, right here in 34:19, it says, "But they turned unappreciative and challenged, quote unquote, 'Our Lord, we do not care if you increase the distance of our journey without any stations,' and unquote. They thus wronged their own souls. Consequently," it says, "we made them history," but if you go to the Arabic, it says hadiths, "and scattered them into small communities throughout the land. This should provide lessons for those who are steadfast and appreciative." So it's hinting at you to be appreciative of the revelation. Is it not enough?
Facts.
Never enough for humans. It just always have to be something else. And, you know, yeah.
No, facts, big time. There's only a few times that hadith is mentioned in a positive way out of like the 25 times that it's there. You know what I'm saying? And it's not one time ever mentioned to be like the hadith of the prophet. Not once. Not once. Like, it's a cold piece. Like, you got like you understand. Like, so if you're in the time of the prophet, hearing him recite, right? You're listening to the prophet say, "And what hadith after this will you follow?" Hence, you got to wait till after the prophet dies to find hadith being collected. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now.
Yeah.
And yeah, when we offer, like how the Quran offers the challenge how to, you know, produce a book like this, you know, if you're not sure, or, you know, but so you're telling me these other 6 books of Bukhari has actually satisfied that Quranic challenge?
That's thank you. And if so, how come the Christians keep chopping y'all up using Bukhari, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now.
Exactly, yeah.
And even for my Christians out there, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on.
No, just real quick, even for my Christians out there who don't know what we're talking about, you can go to Luke 20, verse 46 and 47, where Jesus himself says, "Beware of the scribes, which desire to walk in long robes and love greetings in the markets and the highest seats in the synagogues and the chief rooms at feasts, which devour widow houses, and for a shoe make long prayers. The same shall receive greater damnation."
Yeah, and you can also go to the Quran where it says, "Don't they take their lords and rabbis and scholars and monks as gods besides?"
Yep.
And they said, "How do we do that?" He said, "Well, don't they make halal what God made haram?" He said, "That's your worship of them."
Like marrying prepubescent children?
Yeah. And wearing gold.
Man.
Wearing silk.
Man.
You know? No beard, short beard, long beard. You know, it mentions in the Quran about beards. But as I said, there's obviously another thing. When you go, I've been doing a lot of research in regards to the Hijra calendar, and the Hijra calendar only come up around the time of the Ibn Ishaq. It was after the Prophet. There was no Hijra calendar.
Yeah, they had another calendar use of this at the time.
They were using the Julian calendar, which was the pagan calendar, but they weren't using it. See, Muhammad wasn't using it, but that was the calendar at that time. But they weren't using it because that's why they went through the sun, like the way the sun comes, you know, sort of the certain stages of the sun. And the same, you know, when they say about the timing of the sun, they say that is the prayer time. Some Quran only that pray. Mm-hmm. That's wrong as well, because that was a time for Salah sessions. That was a time when the people used to meet up to grab up the revelation and have the recitation, you know, the reminder, where they grabbed information from the Prophet. And it's like when you go by their Hijra calendar as well, their Hijra calendar, there's a lot of dates in there about the Miraj, right? And there's a few issues. If you use their own sources against them, what you'll find is that when Al-Isra, that happened in around 621, but Muhammad's revelation never happened until 610, around 610. This is by their dates. Then you've got the Qibla change, and this is what they were saying about the direction of the Qibla. And that was, it was from 610 till 623. For 13 years, they used that Qibla towards Jerusalem. But there was no mosque there, it was a tent, because the Caliph put a tent there. There was no building or anything like that. And the Hindus claim that the Kaaba in Saudi weren't a building, it was a tent with all their idols in, with their 360 idols. But this is where, when you go to Petra, everything's demolished, because it makes sense that the Prophet fulfilled and went in and smashed up all the idols. So when you look into the Qibla change, so for 17 months after Muhammad's 622 CE arrival in Medina, the Qibla became orientated towards the Kaaba in Mecca, which they claim, obviously they claim it's Saudi, but let's say it's the Petra at that time. So the conquest of Mecca happened around 629, right? And they basically walked in, and this is when he recited the verse, chapter 17, verse 81, right? Very falsehood is bound to vanish. You know, the truth has come and falsehood has gone. So the first revelation was 610. The Isra and Miraj was 621. The Qibla change from Jerusalem to Mecca was 623. The conquest of Mecca, this came about 629 to 630. Find out 632 is when the Prophet dies. So they say Hijra from their calendar. So the prayers, yeah, I won't put him on yet because he's got his face showing. Oh yeah, that's it. Cool. So the prayer was finalized 2 to 3 years before the change of the Qibla. So the Qibla change was 5 years before the conquest of Mecca. So an 8-year span between the Miraj and the conquest of Mecca. So during the conquest of Mecca, that's when Muhammad visited the Kaaba and destroyed all the idols while reciting chapter 17, verse 81. So if these 5 times a day prayers for 8 years had been facing towards the Kaaba, the followers and Muhammad were also praying to the idols as well. Now you can go on to, there's other situations where Gabriel come down, he was frightened, and what did he do? He ran to the Kaaba and he done a tawaf around the Kaaba where there was idols there. So we have to look at that point of view where they do get stuck themselves when it comes to, you know, oh, the idols were smashed up. But then when you look at Petra, it makes sense that, you know, everything's smashed, everything's gone from there. Yeah, so, you know, they try to switch it and say he was facing Saudi. And Dan Gibson does a blinding job in sort of like what he says as well. I don't know if you've seen her.
Yeah, I've seen parts of it.
Yeah, so he makes a good statement as well. But as I said, when you go word for word into like they say about the long journey, I forget what verse it is now. There's a verse where it says that he was took on a night journey from one mosque to another. Right? They put in brackets, parenthesis, Muhammad. But what they fail is when they look four or five verses and they're talking about Moses. Because Moses is not in parenthesis and it's clear.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that comparison yet.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look into the, I forget what verse it is now. If someone can help me out with that one, I don't know what. If someone can find me the verse where of that journey from one masjid to another, I can show you sort of from the Quran that in the same verse it mentions Moses. It doesn't. The brackets are actually when it says messenger. Does it say messenger? Anyway, I need to. If I'm going to try and bring up, if there's anything you want to mention.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. Actually, I'm looking for it right now, trying to find the verse.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 17 ayat 1?
Let's see.
I think.
From the inviolable place of worship to the ultimate place of worship, which we made blessed around about him. Right. Now, in the Quran that I'm reading, it doesn't mention Muhammad. But check some other Qurans, it will mention Muhammad. But then after that verse, the next verse, it says, and we gave Moses the law, and we made it a guide for the children of Israel. Take not instead of me as a guardian, progeny of those whom we carried with Noah. He was a grateful servant. And we decreed for the children of Israel in the law. It's talking about the children of Israel, Moses. Why do they need to bung Muhammad in there? You know?
Interesting.
Let's see if I don't know if it might be on Sahih International or one of them ones.
So, yeah, Moshe Khan puts Muhammad in there, and then
Yeah, see. But in the translation I got, it doesn't mention nothing about Muhammad.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, the Moshe Khan is the only one that I see that does.
Yeah, and it goes straight into Moses' law.
Yo, Moshe is a load. Like Moshe, like I swear, like Moshe, the Moshe Khan version is like a net negative for the whole Islamic world. You know what I'm saying?
But do you know, it's like if you even just finding little things like that out, I mean, you've got to be very careful on the translation, you know?
All day. Yeah, I want to see that real quick.
It's like this translation I've got right here that doesn't mention Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Check this out, right? And tell me what you find that is wrong in this in Al-Fatiha, chapter 1, right? Tell me if you see what's wrong in this. Even though he doesn't mention Muhammad there, in the name of God, the Almighty, the Merciful, praise belongs to God, the Lord of all mankind, the Almighty, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Did you hear any mistakes there? In the name of God, the Almighty, the Merciful, praise belongs to God, the Lord of all mankind.
Really?
The Lord of all mankind.
Wow.
So he's not the Lord of the universe or anything.
Yeah, he's not the Lord of all the worlds anymore, huh? Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Wow, that's a trip. So wow, okay.
That's that Sam Gerin's translation.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of his translation.
Yeah, I sort of done a few videos against him in regards to taking up the deen. Because basically what he said, right, he knows that anyway, he hasn't done a response because he can't. He basically, a brother mentioned it from Quran Warners. Someone mentioned it to him, and anyway, he was being a bit smart. He's been a bit of a smart aleck, yeah, and then playing violins. And I don't like people like that. So anyway, he said I don't take payment, and he give the a definition of payment. He give the definition. So I was sitting there thinking, and I thought, hold on a minute. It's a payment is taking money for goods. This is what he said. And I thought, hold on a minute, you sell your Quran, which is goods, and you take payment for it. So your definition, you've just you've just made yourself a mug by what you just said.
I thought you could download it for free.
What's that?
Can't you download? I thought he says you can download his Quran for free.
Yeah, I've got his Quran for free, but you know what it is? I like a book.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know you're not allowed to pay for the anything for the deen. I didn't know that. I didn't think it was something, but I stumbled across it, and I thought, damn, I've just paid like X amount of money for his book. He's already got it free online. Why don't he keep it free online? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if someone really wants a book, then be honest and just say, can just pay for the post and packaging and the paper, and that's it. I'm not earning a dime off it.
Right.
But yeah, as I said,
exactly.
and I said, God ain't going to speak to you on the day of judgment. That's if you take the money for the deen, he ain't going to look at you. He ain't going to look at you. So yeah, I don't know.
I would like to have a conversation about him talking about like fasting once a month or whatever. Like that whole Ramadan thing that he does is an interesting break. Like I don't understand it. I watched him break it down a couple times, and I still don't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. Give him God reward him for his effort, if you like.
I appreciate what he does still, though, because he has people questioning translations, so like that's a good thing.
The one thing is that one thing I've noticed, he's a bit he's just a bit up himself in regards to his subscribers. The last video he done, I was going to do a refutation on that as well, but I just thought, I give up on him. But he was saying basically to his subscribers that I'm not going to respond to you. I'm getting too many emails. I'm only going to respond to the ones because he's involved in a project. So he said, I'm only going to respond to people that are involved in a project. And I just thought you ignorant, like it doesn't matter who involved. We're all in a project, aren't we? Finding the truth. Why are you just narrowing it down? And what it is these people, they're just blind to it, to be honest with you. They're just blind. Like, he's got a thing called Quranite, Quranite.com. Mm-hmm. And when I became Quran only, I thought it's a good place to meet some Quran own people, because I was on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I get in there, I try to sign up, money. I'm like, what? Money?
Wow.
I mean, and then he says, if you want me to keep this going on, if you want me to keep the videos going on, then basic donations, whatever if you feel you want to give some, you can. My work's out there for free and all this kind of stuff. And and I can talk about it. It's not backbiting because I've done a video against him. There's 2 videos up there. So and he hasn't responded because he can't. It's point blank. He can't respond. Neither can that Jake. He can't respond either. Yeah, that's just. And Zaki and I have done one against him. I've done one against Norman Ali Khan, and I only use the Quran. I'm nobody. I'm an English div, if you like, from Britain. There's got a million kids, and I'm just sitting here just researching. And if it don't make sense from the Quran alone, just using the Quran, then yeah, you make what you want to make of it, innit?
Mm-hmm.
I can't twist it. It's only Allah, God, that can guide. And
right.
I'm getting into the topic with Allah as well, but I'm not going to do that right now. But did you read that brother's thing in regards to what he said about the name?
I did. So I read that one. I read the one about the Rasul concept. I read the more of the Rasul than the other one.
Okay. Yeah, it's good.
I was checking out the plethora of articles that he had. I was like, oh, okay. That's a lot of articles right there.
Yeah, he's got tons. And I mean, as it's a godsend, we have someone like that anyway. As I said, he doesn't charge for his information either. And looking at his information, I mean, you're looking at weeks and weeks of work just for one verse. The way he breaks it down.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's
yeah.
what it talks about, that race to piety. You know what I'm saying? That race to righteousness. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a race to get paid. Like
No. Definitely not. So as I said, some people have got it and some people ain't. Some people have. I mean, as I said, I might stick stuff up. Like there's a group that is the Facts WordPress. They got a good lot of good information, and what you'll find is there's a few things in there which don't sit well with me, but I take the good, you know, because they still mention the Quran. But they mention, I'll tell you what it is. After the Prophet, they say exalted Prophet, putting him on the pedestal yet again.
right.
You know, when the Prophet says I'm only a human like you. So don't raise me up like the Christians did. So yeah, that's basically. So I do come across things like that, and I try to get it out if I can. If I can't, then I have to sort of research it myself and give my own little talk on it, you know. But anything you want to finish off on, brothers? I mean, any good deeds you want to put out there, wake people, shake people up, rattle them a little bit? We need some rattling stuff, you know, to really make people think, oh, what? I need to go and do some soul searching, you know?
Yeah. So I stick with this concept. Like, so if the Quran stipulates that, you know what, from my hadithist friends, I'll say this. So if you deal with the concept of the Sunnah and you say that that's the way of the Prophet or whatnot, right? One, I need you to show me one verse that stipulates that anywhere in the Quran that he has a Sunnah or that he has a hadith. Second, when it comes to this whole Age of Aisha and Age of Marriage concept, I need you to show me him saying that he did it in your hadith, right? But even in that, and if you show something saying that, I need you to show me something in the concept to where, like, what was the age of his youngest daughter that he married her off at, right? Because from my understanding, she was 17 and change. So if you deal with this whole concept of the Sunnah of the Prophet or whatnot, right? And his youngest daughter was 17 and change when he married her off, we should all be able to unite and agree on the fact that, you know what, child marriage is something that's a no-no in Islam, and if anyone does that, we should be like going against that in every way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
So there should be no children dying in the Islamic world via like some concept of marrying children and whatnot. That's retarded. Like that's evil on top. Like that is like the purest of evil. What are you doing? Like you're literally you're trying to use the Quran to molest children and pay off an imam to do so.
Yep.
Like if there is a hell, it's for people like you.
Definitely. Anything you want to say, Bernie? Anything you want to say to rattle people, get people thinking? Even if it's one person that you rattle. Almost feel like you're sort of grabbing hold of them and shaking them, you know? What people got to understand is, see, this is not for entertainment. These streams, whether it's the brother's stream, my stream, your soul needs feeding. We can feed our body with all the crap food and all that kind of stuff, yeah? Mm-hmm. But we need nourishment, and the nourishment only comes from the soul. Right. We need to feed our soul with the proper information. Now, you might what you get from Sheikh Falan and Sheikh Mufti and Sheikh Goofy Sufi and all these good people, you might feel that is soul feeding. But let me explain something. That's not you. You have to yearn for wanting more information and researching yourself rather than sitting there thinking, "Oh, he was a good speaker." Because what you got to realize in the Quran, it says that something about fancy speech. I don't know if someone can give me the verse. We put with humans fancy speech to lead them away from the path. Meaning, so like when you got like Mufti Menk and people like that, and they got the lingo and they throw in hadith and they don't give you time to think and question and things like that. You know, when someone doesn't want you to question or spend time to listen to them, and they only give you a minute, that's not you should be listening to, you know, because there's been plenty of times I've wanted to ask about one verse. I've wanted to ask about 50 questions, and it was going to take about half hours to an hour. But the guys like all in Arabic, all hadith, said it really quick. He's got lunch or something like that, you know. And then I've got to get off and go. And then you just give up after, because they all do that. I'm telling you, with the Quran alone, people, they won't do that. They shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that fancy speech verse right quick, because I know which one you're talking about. Oh, my man dropped out right quick. But you know what? Since I think Bernie's probably playing daddy, my man dropped out. I will take him some time to say that something we were talking about earlier was the people who try to discredit Islam. Like, so one thing I say is I don't have an issue with them trying to discredit Islam in the sense that, like, they've been presented with the hadithist version of it, right? What Sam Yarns calls brand Islam, you know what I'm saying? Like the package for it, right? So I understand the hostilities and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? On one level. On the other level, I'm gonna again just sincerely ask that if you want to critique Islam, critique it from all sides and whatnot. Don't try to cherry pick and put something from the Sunnis on all Muslims or something from the Shias on all Muslims, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Because there's different understandings of the Quran, and so if you're going to be charitable and be realistic about it, try to disprove the Shia perspective, Sunni perspective, and then the Quran perspective, and understand what the Quran is saying separate from what the Hadith are saying and whatnot, because it's a completely different message and whatnot.
Exactly. Oh, then, people. Well, may God reward all of you for coming on and spending so much time. I hope it's been very educational for everyone. It definitely has for me. As I said, we all learn. And don't ever think you can't jump on and give us even a verse, you know, because we will be held accountable for what we hold. I know it's good to put verses in the comments, I get that, but the comments will only be seen by the people that are live now. They won't be seen after. I don't know what goes on with YouTube anyway, but so just jump on, even if you have to just, you know, say salam people, peace, and this is what I'm going to say, and then you get off. I'm all for that, you know. It's all about earning rewards for the next life, and to, by the permission of God, to guide you as well. Because we've got a lot of falsehood out there, and they're mixing truth with falsehood, and that is the slimy, deceptive thing. If you don't do your research, you'll always think it's all truth.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to pick it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about using the Quran verses and the iteration they're in, and understanding what the Quran is saying from within itself versus what other people are saying about it, is that it clarifies the truth and falsehood that they're strangely mixing together. You know what I'm saying? Because exactly. like the Quran says, truth knocks the brains out of falsehood.
Yeah, same. You can release the truth, and the truth will protect itself. You ain't got to protect it. You know, it'll do it all itself.
I know my person cited 31:6. That's not the verse I'm thinking of. There's a verse that talks. Well, let me look it up right quick. There's a verse that talks about like devils and jinn or whatever being prepared with like fanciful speech or whatever.
That's it. Yeah.
I know the one you're talking about. I'm trying to find that joint.
Oh, I think it's the one I just read. Oh, Islam, everybody, I'm back. But, I think it's the one I read a while ago. See if this marks the spot. Chapter 6, verse 112. And thus we have made for every prophet and enemy, devils from mankind and jinn, inspiring to one another decorative speech and delusion. But if your Lord had willed, they would not have done it. So leave them in that which they invent.
Facts. That's the one.
That's it. Yeah, and then you got another version, obviously, another way of saying that, just in case there's other people that want to understand it in another sort of way, is, and thus we appoint for every prophet and enemy, shaitans of men and jinn, instructing one another in a decoration of speech by deception, and had thy Lord willed, they would not do it. So leave them thou leave thou them and what they fabricate. Yeah, so on that note, may God reward all of you people for coming on. And yeah, if there's you two brothers, if there's anything that you fancy talking about next time, just drop me a comment on one of the videos and we'll set a stream up for it.
Will do.
Or if you want me to come over to yours at roughly sort of this time, I'm all for that as well.
Will do. Yeah, when I get my strike lifted and I can go live on that channel, I will, man.
May I end with one last verse?
Go on.
If I may, just for those who might be like, used to feel frustrated, this actually relieved my heart to know that Allah was very aware of these people. Believe Allah, literally Allah sees all and he knows what's going on in everyone's heart. Because it says right here in chapter 12, verse 106, okay, you will learn that some people just can't help it. Okay, in chapter 12, verse 106, the majority of those who believe in God do not do so without committing shirk. Some people just can't help it, family. So just don't beat yourself over the head if some people don't get it,
Exactly. And we can all have a difference of opinion. We should still get on, you two obey and us or our way.
Facts.
And we just, as I said, we're just exchanging research. And if we hit heads, then we just say, well, we move on, and we talk about another topic.
Right. Like again, that's what I enjoy about brothers who just get in the Quran without the hadith. Is that, what I'm saying, that there's no fitna. Like, all right, cool. We agree. We just all right. It is what it is.
I mean, trust me, if I get personal on it, it's hadith that follows man-made hadith, and the moment they start cussing me, I find it so hard to shut my mouth. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I've had to let it go. Not too much, obviously, not too much. But yeah, as I said, it's good to have good company because you are what your friends are. So,
right. Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. So
my wife wanted to end with one more verse, and it's literally in line with what you just said because we were looking for this during the whole conversation. We're literally following the Quran by surrounding ourselves with like-minded people, according to chapter 18, verse 28. And keep yourself patient by being with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and in the evening, seeking his face. And let not your eyes pass beyond them, desiring adornments of the worldly life, and do not obey those whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance, and who follow his low desires, and who affairs ever in neglect.
Beautiful hadith. Beautiful Quranic hadith.
Yeah, exactly.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
But yeah, so may God reward everyone's family, keep you safe from this dead virus, this fear mongering, because at the end of the day, we only fear God. We don't fear anything else. If we do fall outside the Quran. We're no longer Muslims because we should only fear God alone.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, I'd like to say if anyone wants to do a live stream at any time, just drop me a link on what you want to talk about, and we'll do more of these if you're up for it.
Yeah, we'll do.
Well, we'll peace thumbs to everybody.
Yeah, wa alaikum salam.
And keep safe. Peace and love, bros.
Peace and love, man.